One night, something unusual happened to a guy named Lin Zilo. He woke up in a cold sweat. It was like he was having a terrible nightmare. At first he thought he was dead, and to make sure he wasn't, he touched his forehead. A corpse can't be hot. Then he turned his attention to his hands. There were no calluses on them as before. The skin seemed much younger. He noticed that he found himself in a dormitory. It was where he had lived exactly 10 years ago. He found his phone and turned on the front camera to look at himself. His face seemed much younger. There were no scars on it at all. And that's when he realized he was reborn. He went back to the day the Doomsday Game came out. He remembered that before this, he had only become a 10th-ranked war god in the Land of Dragons. 2 gods of war from the neutral camp invited him to the celebration. And as they were talking, they were suddenly invaded by a zombie emperor. And while fighting him, those 2 betrayed the guy and killed him in cold blood. A girl entered the room and asked if he liked the Li family's routine. It was Yao Zihan. By bringing the zombie emperor to him, she not only reached an agreement with the Li family, but also completely blocked the legendary world. Yao was the first beauty of the university. Lin himself couldn't believe that such a girl had agreed to go out with him. He didn't realize that she'd been given an assignment to get close to the guy right before Judgment Day. This was done in order to target the guy to expand the territories of possession, and afterward, get rid of him. The Li family belongs to the 3 major clans of the Dragon Country. Their influence cannot be underestimated. At the cost of his appearance, he was able to escape their clutches, having been at the mercy of death. And for the next 10 years, he had to hide from the Li family's mercenaries. He was determined to get revenge on his girlfriend, but she was under the protection of the Li family. But when he is reborn, the skin of light has not yet come. They haven't met yet. And now he can deal with her beforehand. Suddenly a message arrived on his phone. It was from Yao Zihan. The girl wrote that she would not be able to celebrate his birthday with him because she was teaching a class for children. Then he suggested the girl meet him later at an abandoned warehouse. Lin never understood why Li Haobo hated him so much. He assumed it had something to do with his father. In a past life, he waited for his birthday to celebrate with his girlfriend, but she only laughed at him. But this time, the guy decided he wasn't going to let that happen. Lin went outside. Everyone was surprised at how red the sky was that day. The red sky is the harbinger of the beginning of the Doomsday Game. At 7 o'clock, the Doomsday Game will change reality, and the whole world will turn into a huge game in which not many will be able to survive. He entered the warehouse, swinging the door open confidently. It was dark and a little gloomy. Yao sat with a disgruntled look. She asked why Leet was gone for so long. Behind his back, he held a knife hidden in the sleeve of his hoodie. The girl said that if he didn't explain what was wrong, she would leave. She still had a class to teach. Suddenly, he grabbed Yao right by the throat. She didn't expect it at all. The girl was very frightened. She didn't understand what was wrong and asked Lin to let her go. He replied that on March 29th, 478th, at the Emperor Kai Hotel. She didn't know what he was talking about or what he was saying to himself, so she kept begging him to let her go. He kept naming dates and hotel names. They seemed very familiar to Yao. And then she remembered that these were the dates and places where she and Li Haobo had held their secret lovemaking sessions. She said she could explain everything. She just asked me to let her go. Then, he saw the phone Yao had dropped and read the girl's correspondence with Li. In it, they were making fun of the guy. He found the video Yao had prepared for him. In it, she called Lin a wimp. Also at the video, she said he should have known why the prettiest girl in the university was dating a pauper like him. And if it weren't for the master's orders, she wouldn't even look in his direction. Lin quoted all the words she said in the video. She didn't understand the guy found out about it, for she had prepared it for the master. Lin said she would have time to think about all the things she had done in hell. He then swung the knife with all his might and stabbed the girl. It was enough for her to die immediately. Lin couldn't believe that what he had dreamed of for a whole 10 years was finally accomplished. He got his revenge on the traitor. But that wasn't enough for the guy. There was also Li Haobo and his family who were hiding in their estate. Suddenly, he received a notification congratulating him on his rebirth from the trainer system. He didn't understand how this was possible, since Judgment Day was only due in an hour. Plus, he's never heard of a system like this. It turns out that it provides data about the player and brings the owner of the system a better gaming experience. He had a successful introduction to the game system and received his first reward. It was absolute explosion. When killing any zombies, the benefit of blowing up any items increased from 1 to 100%. Lin didn't know yet if this system could really be trusted, but he already liked it a lot. The guy wondered if he could topple the Li family with this system, but this family could not be underestimated. Not only did they have a huge number of well-trained warriors, but they also had secret body hardening techniques. And he still didn't know the reason why Haobo hated him so much. And that's when he decided he could only find out by sneaking into his family. At first he planned to just kill Haobo and then hide to gain strength. But now he has his father-in-law's system. He will be able to become strong much faster and destroy the Li family. Afterward, he donned a hood for safety. Lin fled the scene. He watched everyone around him enjoying life and giving each other love. And only Lin knew that very soon that would change, and people would start killing each other. He went to the nearest unremarkable hotel and asked for a room with an hourly rate. I also asked him to bring a small supply of food. This was in case the program was unreliable. He paid for the entire order and also asked for girl number 3 to be sent to his room. Lin remembered that last time, she was the one who had become the main zombie in the area. This time, he could deal with it faster and test the system at the same time. It was 5 minutes before the Day of Judgment began. There was a knock on the door and girl number 3 entered the room. He told her to go take a shower. The girl was already starting to smell like a zombie. Before the end of the world begins, there are signs by which you can tell who will turn. He took the knife and walked to the bathroom door. He could hear the girl taking a shower. Suddenly, her body began to change. The girl gradually turned into a zombie. He quickly went into the bathroom and killed her by slitting her throat with his knife. At that moment, he received an alert that the Doomsday game had begun, and there was no way to stop it. Zombies in this world have sharp hearing but poor eyesight. They can only see moving objects. 80% of the people were turned into zombies. The remaining 20% were lucky. Just like that, Lin also received a list of all the rules of this game, but he already knew them already. In this world, modern means of communication have become useless as well as modern technology. One could only turn into a zombie through a bite or a wound. Zombie blood was not contagious. When the program asked him to enter his name, he decided to enter the name Yazi. He decided to take another name with which he would begin his journey of revenge. He wanted Li to pay for everything. He became the first player to kill a zombie, got 1 point and moved to the second level. He was glad that this information was available to all players. There was no such thing in his past life, despite the fact that he had even managed to become a god of war. Ji Yao was worried that she hadn't even finished reading the instructions yet, and someone had already managed to kill a zombie. Gu Goza immediately liked the game, but didn't like the fact that someone managed to get ahead of him. Zai was surprised that this time he had gotten a high level of energy and speed. In his previous life, he wouldn't have reached such a level in 10 years. Suddenly he heard a strange sound coming from the bathroom. He looked in there and saw the meditation pendant, a tribute near the zombie corpse. He was glad that he could immediately win a bronze gear that increased energy by 1 point and recovery speed by 10%. Then he decided to hide as the zombie's power increased at night. But before that, he was determined to kill a couple more. And he decided to start with the other rooms in this hotel. He didn't have to wait long. He heard footsteps outside the door. It was a zombie. The characteristics of this zombie were a bit higher than the others, but the guy was determined to deal with him quickly as well. But it didn't turn out quite the way he expected. He couldn't kill that zombie with 1 punch. After killing him, he received a new reward. It was a material resource card. Afterward, he discovered a backpack in which he found tools and got himself a hammer. With him, he went to look for zombies in the other rooms of this hotel. Entering one of the rooms, he interfered with a couple of zombies in love. When they noticed the guy, they immediately rushed at him. They were a little stronger and quicker than the zombie he'd borrowed the hammer from. But Lin dealt with this couple as well very quickly, and got 2 more points. He really liked the new system. In his previous life, he could only get a bottle of water for killing 100 zombies. He also received the dual award of the Explorer's Eye. This tool helped him explore a 10-meter radius. A single use lasts for 10 hours. He did not wait and decided to try this reward immediately. Suddenly he saw the innkeeper approaching him. He was still human. Lin could have waited until someone bit him and he turned into a zombie. But he didn't want to waste time on that and got rid of the underbitten owner. Afterward, the guy went back to checking the hotel rooms looking for zombies. As it turned out, many of them were empty, but suddenly he found a large zombie. Despite his size, he was agile, but that wasn't a problem for Lin. The guy killed another zombie and got a new reward of vodka. It was a great end to the evening, and Lin set off in search of a night's lodging. Having chosen one of the rooms of this hotel, he checked it out well too, and decided that he would stay here for the night. But suddenly the system sent a notification that the guy has only 6 points left to move to the 3rd level. He was in shock, for he only had 20 minutes to kill 6 zombies. He remembered that there were 3 serving girls in the hotel, and he'd only killed 2. So there was another one somewhere nearby. He remembered that according to the game's settings, zombies enter on sound, so he started banging his hammer loudly. Sounds started coming from a room nearby. It was zombies. He went in there and saw that the two were in the basement. He went downstairs and immediately dealt with those zombies and got a new alert. 4 more zombies had to be found in order to advance to the next level. His knife was already a little dull, and it was harder to kill zombies with it. Lin hoped that the game would soon reward him with a new weapon. Suddenly, Tang's sword appeared out of nowhere. The guy was shocked that his thoughts could materialize. The Tang sword is a bronze-level weapon developed in the Land of Dragons that can pierce armor. Such a weapon was only good for Lin right now, though he could acquire it a little later. He glanced at the phone screen. There were only 10 minutes left to find the rest of the zombies. As soon as he stepped out of the hotel, he immediately saw the 4. It was a fluke. But now Lin has a sword, and will be able to deal with them even faster. By killing these zombies, he got 4 points and moved on to the next level. Suddenly, another zombie swooped down on him. On the first day of the game, they don't have much intelligence. He was able to kill with another blow, and got another reward. This time he got a skill book, which turned out to be a very good reward. He glanced at his watch. It was 8 o'clock in the evening, and Lin had no time to return to his room. At nighttime, zombies get more different buffs, and it becomes much harder to defeat them. In front of Lin was another zombie. Its strength had increased significantly in just 1 minute. The guy decided he had to deal with him within the next minute, or he would only get stronger. But it took more strength and time to kill it. The characteristics of this zombie had already reached its peak. Lin first tried to kill him with his sword, but it wasn't enough. He slashed his chest and decided to finish him off with a hammer. But that didn't work either. It took him no small amount of effort to finish off this huge zombie, but he did it nonetheless. Lin realized that if it wasn't for his experience and the fact that he had time to prepare, he would have definitely lost. The boy quickly collected all the rewards. He urgently needed to hide. It was already past 8 o'clock, and the characteristics of all zombies would increase by at least 50%. But before he left, he hid the dead zombies. If he stayed there longer, he might attract the attention of others. After that, he returned to his room and activated the Eye of the Explorer reward. If someone were to approach him within 10 meters, the protective barrier of his eye would turn red. Afterward, Lin decided to take a shower and rest. He remembered that he still had 5 unopened rewards. It was Twilight Ring, a liter of water, Peking duck, and 2 more investigator's eyes. The guy was a little confused. In a past life, you had to spend a lot to get all this stuff. But he was insanely glad that now he had the opportunity to get it so easily. The Twilight Ring was a bronze-level gear and was great for camouflage during twilight. He immediately put the ring on and suddenly got a new alert from the program. It said that the guy could use an unlimited number of skills while playing from the book he received. In the past life, normal players from level 10 to level 80 could only use special skills 3 times. The person who managed to gain skills the most was nicknamed the God of Skills. Lin possessed 10 kinds of skills, which already surpassed 99% of the players. He would open this book and ask for the very best skill with which he could successfully start this life. His skill was the rotation attack. It allowed him to inflict 120% damage to the enemy when he threw his weapon, after which the weapon would return back. Lin was insanely pleased. This warrior skill was very rare. The only downside to this skill is the long recovery time. The program offered the guy to learn the skill, and he gladly accepted the offer. He first decided that it was time for a refreshment, for the day had been very tiring. After dinner, he sat down to rest and thought that if he wanted revenge, he should deviate from the game's plot. Meanwhile, in his house, Li Haobo was angrily groping whatever he could get his hands on. He was mad as his plan had gone awry. He blamed it on Yao Jihan, who had not contacted him. Special Assistant Li Haobo told the gentleman that if he continued to sew like this, they would have no guards left at all, and no one to protect him from the zombies. But the man couldn't pull himself together. He wanted to destroy Lin with every cell in his body, and then he decided to send a pair of mercenaries to find Yao and Lin. They had been trained specifically for the Li family since they were children. In the morning, Lin packed his things and left the hotel. He needed to get new rewards and skills. The whole town was overrun with zombies, and the guy was able to kill a couple more and earn himself points. At this rate, he had raised his level again. He was now at 4th. The guy tried out his spin punch skill for real and was very pleased, but he wanted to raise his level some more. Then the recovery power of the spinning kick would happen faster. Lin decided that that was enough for today. He had already received not a few good rewards. Suddenly he received the alert again. This time, the program gave him a new tool. It was a scroll of equipment enhancement. It could increase the level of bronze-level equipment. He thought he'd finally gotten something really useful. He used this scroll to enhance the characteristics of his Tang sword. Afterward, he received a concealment mask that allowed him to hide his nickname and other basic information for half an hour. Lin immediately used it, and decided to continue hunting zombies after a short rest. If he could reach level 5 today, he could go straight to battle and not waste time on quests. Quests were the best way to earn experience points, food, and equipment in the Doomsday game. The player only needed to find one of the many portals to the quest. So there were also special quests where you could get huge rewards. After resting, Lin decided that it was still time to head to the Lee family's manor. He took the super-accurate clock device and set off for his destination. As he walked down the street, he saw a courtyard with a lock hanging on the gate. This interested him. The guy easily cut him off with his sword and headed inside, straight for the Lee family. As he entered the house, he saw a lot of blood around. He realized that there must be zombies in there. He did. He found 2 zombies there that he was able to kill easily. Suddenly he saw their picture, and Lin felt even a little sorry that these people had turned into zombies. Afterward, he settled down at their house to get a bite to eat and look at his onward itinerary. On the way to his destination, he was determined to kill some more zombies, and by doing so, to get the points up to level 5. Soon he heard the sound of someone's footsteps. He went to the door and listened again. Turns out there were people outside the house who lived there. They were waiting for the guy to leave. The smell of very delicious food wafted to them. They realized he had a lot of cards with it. They were going to threaten the guy and take him and his food cards by force. But these trio had no idea that Lin had long ago figured them out and learned of their intentions. Jikaisi pondered some more on the old and said that this guy had committed breaking and entering theft. As it turned out, the father of these guys immediately turned into a zombie, and the girl and her brother quickly ran away from home without having time to take anything with them. They were already very hungry, so they decided to attack the stranger who broke into their house. But unexpectedly for the girl, Lin attacked first, and immediately killed the most cunning guy of the 3 of them. Lin needed to conserve energy, but these guys could attract zombies here. So he killed the remaining humans without question, in one fell swoop, using one of his new skills. In his opinion, he had done these guys a favor by killing them. Otherwise, they would have suffered in this game. Then he set off on his route, killing zombies that met his path. People who hadn't turned into zombies were watching from their windows and thought it was some kind of hero. He masterfully dealt with all opponents, but no one could see his face or look up his name in the program. One couple at first even considered calling him for help, but didn't dare as they might give away their position to the zombies. But one girl did make up her mind. She looked out of the window and turned to the guy. She used to be popular and had over 30,000 subscribers online. But Lin paid no attention to her, and continued to collect his rewards. She really didn't like it and decided to teach the guy a lesson and throw a vase of flowers on him. But that didn't work on Lin either. He went on about his business. The girl at the window didn't back down, and even said she would become his wife if he saved her. Then he took the meat with the zombie virus. If you get it, the zombies within 100 meters will immediately go to its smell. Lin decided to throw this piece straight to the harassed girl in the apartment. She began to resent it until she saw a huge number of zombies suddenly burst through her door. They dealt with the girl in a flash, and Lin said that this would be the first lesson of the end of the world for everyone. The first lesson of the end of the world. Don't ask for help from just anyone. Lin finally arrived at the Devil Capital to the sports center. There was supposed to be a special silver-level treasure chest hidden in this center. There were still 2 more hours until 8 o'clock. Lin hoped he could find him in that time. According to the game's settings, quests, robot traders, or treasure chests appear in significant locations. Treasure chests fall to the ground, and anyone who finds it can collect their bounty. In order for a boss chest to appear, you must kill the main boss. The value of such a chest is much higher, but it is more difficult to get it. When Lin entered the center, he noticed that the setting was suitable for the task. Suddenly, he received a new assignment. 1 is worth 100, which was to kill 100 zombies in a building. Lin didn't initially what to do. He had planned to find the chest and escape. But now it's a mission. Ego wondered what would happen if he gave it up or failed. But then came an addendum that said the player would receive a consolation prize of 100 coins for losing. The guy was surprised, thought that in that case he had nothing to lose and accepted the assignment. As far as he remembered, the silver chest was hidden in a warehouse on the 3rd floor. He went there, but he will not have time to go there. So the guy decided to go to the medical center on the 2nd floor to spend the night there. By about lunchtime the next day he should reach the warehouse on the 3rd floor. And when he finds the chest, he'll sneak out of here by jumping off the outside floor. Lin cut the lock off the door. They swung open, and the first zombie was already there. The guy killed him with ease, thinking that the guy probably didn't expect to turn into a zombie, having just come to play basketball. After that, another reward appeared near the guy. But also Lin noticed a key that fell out of the zombie's pocket nearby. Another reward was a light and sound grenade. It can be used to blind the enemy for a while. The guy decided that this group control weapon would come in handy at Lee Manor. Then Lin took the key and assumed he would fit all the doors of the sports center. He figured the less he banged on the doors, the less he'd attract zombies. On his way, Lin decided to peek through one of the doors. Strange sounds were coming from there. He saw that there were a lot of zombies behind her, and they didn't have time to notice him. Lin quietly snuck inside to count just how many of them were in there. There appeared to be 17 in total, but they were at the same level as Lin. And in order to destroy them all, he'll have to work very hard. The door to the hall was closed. We had to be very quiet, so the other zombies wouldn't come to the noise. To get to level 5, the guy only had to kill 2 people. Then he decided that he would take it to the next level first, and dealing with the others would be easier. Everything was going according to plan, but as soon as he killed the first zombie, everyone suddenly threw themselves at the guy. He killed another one and advanced to the 5th level. His body quality and strength increased. He started killing the opponents one by one and didn't notice that he was being watched. There was another player behind the door. He was unhappy that someone had beaten him to the door. After analyzing at what speed Lin was killing these zombies, the guy realized that he must have good resources. He decided to wait until Lin dealt with all the zombies, and when his strength was running low, take his resources. This player started thinking about how to lure as many zombies to the guy as possible. Then he would be able to kill him without a problem. Everything was against Lin. The zombie orm was attracting others to this place. He realized that a huge number of zombies would soon arrive here. They all tried to get in, but the door was locked from the inside. Lin didn't know how much more she could take, but tried to be as calm as possible. He decided he needed to deal with those zombies inside as soon as possible and get out of there fast. There weren't many zombies left, but Lin was already severely exhausted. Suddenly, he noticed a reward nearby. It was a stamina potion that could restore 20% of his strength. The guy immediately rushed over to him. After taking this potion, he continued killing zombies with a new speed. Afterwards, he realized that he needed to collect all the rewards as they might come in handy in this battle. Lin saw the spiked bracelet. He could summon magical spikes from the ground. The recovery time of the skill was 24 hours. As soon as he put it on his arm, he noticed that the zombies had managed to break down the door and make their way inside. In his opinion, it was just in time. Now he could try out the bracelet. And as soon as the zombies swarmed him, Lin jumped above them and activated the bracelet. Spikes began to appear from under the ground, instantly destroying all of the guy's opponents. Lin was surprised. Such a strong reception mages only get at the 20th level. He watched the zombies die. And the program gave him successive alerts about the points and rewards he'd received. The use of the spikes was complete. The 24-hour freeze had begun. Almost all of the zombies were already dead. There were many different rewards around, and he began to look at them. Lin was surprised, as such characteristics could only be found in 10th level experts. He realized that when he changed his specialty, his performance would be twice that of ordinary people. But the zombies continued to continuously break into the guy's hall from all sides. Then he took the meat with the zombie virus and loaded the torpedo machine with it. He shot them in the opposite direction to divert their attention. He used the boots of strong wind and fled the scene. 8 o'clock was only an hour away. It would be dark soon enough, and the zombies' characteristics would increase. He decided that now it was better not to kill zombies, but to rest, and in the morning to decide what to do next. Then Lin went to the door, then saw that it was locked, which was strange. It was 7 o'clock when the end of the world came. The sports center was not yet closed, and the nurse's station is usually locked after closing time. Then Lin realized that this door had been locked already after the end of the world had come. When he opened it with the key, he found on the zombie. Lin hoped that whoever was inside would be honest with him. He leisurely walked inside as suddenly someone from behind put a knife to his throat. The stranger asked the guy where he got the key to the nurse's station and what he was doing here. Lin noticed that his opponent appeared alert, only he contacted the wrong one. Then he intercepted his opponent's arm and snatched the knife from it. He kneeled him down and covered his mouth with a piece of cloth so he wouldn't attract the zombie's attention with his screaming. After which he began to cover all the windows so as to remain unnoticed. When Lin turned on the light, he saw that a nurse and a few other center workers were still in the room. The bound guy was angry. He didn't understand how Lin was able to kill so many zombies. He huddled in a corner and looked at him with crazed eyes, for he wanted to kill and take everything from the stranger. Lin stepped closer to him and said that you shouldn't look at people like that, especially when the end of the world comes, otherwise you'll be killed. After saying that, he slit the boy's throat. Everyone in the room was very frightened. No one had expected such a turn of events. Suddenly, a knife fell out of the guy's sleeve. Lin realized that the man could have killed him. After that, Lin turned around to the others and said that he was actually a good person. It's just that a stranger provoked him, so he had to be killed. He added that if he was treated well, this would not happen to anyone else. A girl suddenly emerged from the crowd. She confirmed that Lin had been forced to do this, and there was really no need to be afraid of him. Everyone was still startled and immediately agreed with her almost in chorus. Lin thought through the fact that today's battle in the ping-pong hall had gone wrong. If everything went according to his plan, he would definitely complete the task. He realized he had no equal here right now. He asked to take the corpse out of the room and clean up the blood. Everyone quickly rushed to fulfill his wish without any objection. He watched everything intently. One of the girls seemed very familiar to him. This girl's name was Jun Jesus. She didn't have any rank or level. He remembered that in a past life, she was the one who had possessed the secret specialty of a healer. He had once suffered a serious facial wound. He turned to a girl to heal him. He was ready to pay any valuable, but the girl replied that this scratch was connected with the soul, and it could not be cured. He'd been badly injured a few times, and Jun had no problem helping the guy out. The healer's specialty after the end of the world is highly respected and non-threatening. But this girl's own strength was very low, and she could easily be killed. They all had a hard time because of the end of the world. Jun looks completely different now. Lin thought it was a coincidence that even after being reborn, he met her again on the second day of the end of the world. Suddenly a knock began to sound at their door, which alerted everyone in the room greatly. The boy glanced leisurely at his watch. It was 8 hours and 30 minutes. He didn't care at all what was going on around him. He took out the food cards and decided to have dinner. The people at the nurse's station looked at him with surprised eyes. They were also very hungry. Jun asked where Lin got so much food from. She assumed that she could get it too. It was a trap from Lin. He said he would help them in return for their help. The offer scared everyone a bit, but they were too hungry, so they were willing to agree to anything. He handed June a list of medications and asked that she bring along with the nurse whatever it said. The girl was surprised to hear this. The worst scenarios had already been presented in her head. Then she thought the guy was really weird, but got excited and said she'd help with everything. To the workers, he instructed them to craft the items he needed. As many items as they can get done before 6 o'clock in the morning. That's how much food they get. He also gave them some cards that might come in handy. After giving everyone instructions, Lin went to rest. He decided it was best to be reassured, so he activated the Explorer's Eye. He looked at his number of rewards, and was pleased that he had been able to get so much in just a couple days. Lin had 22 experience points left before advancing to the 6th level. In order to complete the task, he needed to kill 55 more zombies. He decided he needed a good night's sleep. He still had 6 more hours to complete the task. In his opinion, that was enough. In the morning, when he left the room, he saw that everyone was still laboring. They stayed up all night to get as much food as possible and looked very tired. He praised them for their work and gave them each 1 card. It was enough to get them through the day. Jun was pleased. She thought the guy wouldn't keep his word and just kill them all. She realized that the Ling wasn't as cruel as it seemed at first glance. Later, the girl inquired about the proper use of these cards. Then Lin remembered that this game didn't even have an introductory tutorial. In a past life, he'd been learning to open those cards himself for days. He decided to do June a favor and showed him how it should be done. Everyone immediately activated their cards and pounced on the food, since they hadn't for a couple days. Lin thought it was necessary to warn Jun. She had helped the guy out many times in his past life. If he can establish a relationship with her in this game, it will be much easier to get through it. He told everyone that at about 12 o'clock they all needed to get out of here. He figured that by then he would be able to wipe out all the zombies in the center. This will be their chance to get out, and maybe their only chance for salvation. Jun was worried about the guy because there are zombies outside and it's very dangerous. He said he shouldn't worry, but rather take better care of himself. After that, he slowly walked out into the corridor where there were many zombies. He immediately attacked one from the back so as not to attract the attention of the others. So he killed the zombies one by one until he had killed everyone in the vicinity. He noticed that there were very few human survivors in the center, and those who had turned into zombies had very weak characteristics. Then he heard sounds coming from the women's restroom. He was hesitant to go there for a long time, but he decided to do so in order not to fail the mission. Turns out there were 2 zombies who decided to get some privacy, but they were so clumsy that they slipped on the jar and stepped on Lin's sword themselves. But afterwards, the guy recognized them and was surprised. After all, in his previous life, this couple had been the most famous. They were very inseparable, and their strength was second only to that of the Zombie King. It was even a little embarrassing that he'd managed to finish off such a famous couple on only the third day. As a reward, he received a bronze-level merging stone award. It allowed 2 bronze-level items to merge together, resulting in a new item with a higher level. He was about to leave, but he heard some sound coming from one stall. He walked over to see who was there, and was greatly surprised. It was a bronze-level chest. Lin rejoiced greatly, didn't hesitate, and immediately opened this chest. The boy saw a card with an apple drawn on it, and hoped it would add to his strength and speed. It was the fruit of the immortals. After using it, the characteristics would increase by 2 points. None of the other players could know that the guy's characteristics had increased. He was happy about this reward. He headed to the sink to wash the apple before eating it. It not only added to the characteristics, but it was also the most delicious apple Lin had ever tasted. Afterwards, Lin went in search of the rest of the zombies in order to complete the task. He entered one of the gymnasiums where there was a huge number of zombies. To avoid disturbing the other zombies that were in the center, he used the carpet card, so you couldn't hear him moving around, or zombie corpses falling to the floor. Lin continued killing zombies until he saw the new lion wristbands card. It was a bronze-level equipment. The wristbands possessed the strength of a lion, capable of making others tremble in fear. After he was done with those zombies, he poisoned himself to find the next victims. He had 35 zombies left to kill. Lin entered the corridor and saw many dead people, which surprised him. Ordinary zombies can't do that. They can only bite a person or turn them into their own kind. If they're in a bad mood, they can still eat a person's brain. He only knew 2 people who could do something like this. The first was the zombie boss. The zombie boss is at a higher level than regular zombies. It has even more power. They also like to feed on people. If there are no people around, it may eat its own kind to get enough. The second person who could have had something to do with this is a zombie animal. Stronger animals turn into zombies more easily. Weaker animals, such as mosquitoes, rarely turn into zombies. Animal zombies have a special weakness for humans. They like to eat their brains, but they won't miss out on human zombies either. Lin scrutinized the corpses carefully. There were a huge number of scratches on them, and the guy speculated that it could have been done by a zombie cat. Guy hated zombie cats. They were highly sensitive and had excellent hearing. He realized that the cat was definitely aware of his presence here. He decided to see how she planned to attack, either quietly or directly. Lin tried to locate her so he could attack first. Unexpectedly, she still struck first. He was a bronze-level boss. Lin immediately realized this, as she had additional properties in her name. This boss had excellent abilities and surpassed the guy in strength and speed. If it inflicts a wound with its sharp claws, the rate of wound healing decreases and bleeding increases. Even if it only hurts his arm, it will take a long time to recover. Then he realized that he would need all of his combat experience to take down this zombie cat. The system sent a new task for Lin. He had to kill a cat. These cats used to live on the 3rd floor of the complex and mesmerized everyone with their cuteness. But after the end of the world came, they turned into dangerous zombies and immediately started killing people. Failure to do so was penalized with a 1-level penalty and a 1-point characterization reduction. A reward of 100 reputation points and a bronze-level item awaits him for completing the task. But suddenly the program made a change and removed the penalty for refusing or failing to complete the task. He could complete it several times. Lin was surprised at how different this game was from the one in his previous life. In his previous life, all the tasks that the guy went through were of a high level of difficulty. It didn't matter if he lost or refused. The program penalized him severely. For only 1% of players did the task seem but easy. When they met a bronze-level boss, only a few could emerge victorious. And the rewards for fulfillment were negligible, at most plus 50 coins. And this task to kill a cat now brings a big reward, and there's no penalty for not doing it. Lin immediately accepted the task without question, and was determined to complete it as quickly as possible. As far as he remembered, if one gave in to the boss's provocation, there was a huge chance of losing. He decided he needed to make the boss attack him first. And since the cat was in no hurry to attack, he also crouched down and began a similar behavior. The guy pulled out his phone and started reading the manhwa. The zombie cat was very surprised. She started to get angry and snort, while Lin continued to read and laugh in concentration. The cat didn't like that much, and the guy got his way. She attacked first. She began to swing her paws with sharp claws in such a way that Lin immediately barely managed to dodge. She pinned him right up against the wall. Behind his back he drew and readied his sword. So when the zombie cat made another attack, he tried to hit it with his weapon. But the boss had many abilities that allowed him to anticipate everything in advance. Lin's tactics didn't work, and the cat just quickly bounced back. Then he decided to attack her. The boy managed to cut down all of her sharp claws. Fighting the zombie cat was now much easier since it wasn't capable of doing much damage. This made the cat very angry, and it decided to use the cat's eye ability. With this ability, she could cast hallucinations on her opponent. In front of Lin's eyes, incomprehensible, terrifying creatures began to appear. But it didn't scare him. He'd been playing the game for 10 years, and he wasn't afraid of much anymore. He punched the cat with all his might, with the words that she was a long way from a guy. The zombie cat was confused, and suddenly started running away somewhere. But Lin didn't let her do that. He used the spinning sword and finished her off. In the end, Lin became the first player who managed to kill a bronze-level zombie. The guy received many awards and a new title of bronze fighter. This information was released to all players. His accomplishments made the others very angry. Although he also had fans who thought he was cool. They were mostly female. But there were also those who realized that the guy was chasing fame, but felt only indifference to it. But many people wondered who this Yazi really was. They assumed that the guy must definitely be from the Dragon State. Mr. Lee thought that if such a strong player wanted to join him, his power would increase many times over. The guy thought he'd make a big sensation this time, and then he'd probably have to hide his face from his fans. He crouched down to rest. All the characteristics of this cat were higher than the guy's. Although he had to spend a lot of resources and energy, he still managed to kill the bronze-level boss. If next time he meets a boss stronger than this cat, but there's no telling if he'll be able to handle it. He got an alert from the system again. Now the guy's gone to level 7. He also received a strength reserve potion. After using it, his strength should recover by 20%. Lin rejoiced greatly when he obtained the characteristics, because now, even if this cat came to life, he would be able to deal with it without a problem. The guy was also interested in what his characteristics would be when he changed his major. 30 minutes later, he rested, and saw that a bounty had appeared near the slain zombie cat. He moved closer to look. It was the zombie cat horn. This attribute allowed you to summon a cat and control it for 30 minutes. The guy rejoiced greatly. Now he had a perpetual helper. He took the cat and thought the fur, meat, and claws could be turned into gloves, food, or tools. So he decided to take the corpse of this zombie with him and put her in a virtual backpack. After that, the boy went to the warehouse. He remembered that the silver chest should be in that room. But the picture he saw horrified him. There were eyeballs all over the room. Apparently, zombie cats did it. In normal life, it would make anyone's hair stand on end. He knew that meant something valuable must be hidden there. Wouldn't want to waste any more time. He searched practically everything in the room, but never found anything worthwhile. As an afterthought, he decided to peek under the white sheet to see what was there. That's where the chest was hidden. The boy was surprised that it was quite simple. It was a silver chest. Lin was rewarded with 20 reputation points for it. He immediately opened it and received additional rewards, a winged cloak and a skill book. Lin Tak had obtained the Exploding Swords ability, which allowed 2 attacks at once. The guy appreciated the ability, but the degree of difficulty was quite high. A beginner wouldn't be able to master 2 attacks at the same time, but he was confident that his abilities were enough to master this skill. But he was even more excited when he saw the winged cloak, which allowed him to freeze time for a short period of time. Lin was pleased that he was able to get so rich by defeating just 1 cat. He had planned to deal with Haobo in the evening, but now that goal seemed too small for him. He suggested that it would be better to deal with his whole family at once. All he had to do was finish his 1 is worth 100 assignment. This time he did not act cautiously, but knocked ostentatiously on the door to draw attention to himself. And when he succeeded, he attacked them first with full confidence in his abilities. He planned to try out all his newly learned skills on these zombies, and he planned to start with the skill Spin Attack. The guy assumed it must be very powerful, and so it was. After choosing one of the zombies as his victim, Lin used this attack. Suddenly there was a huge explosion from the zombie that threw the guy back a couple of meters. This zombie's stats were at least 30% higher, yet it was unable to withstand the blow. Lin noticed that the effect of sword attack was much better than that of spinning sword. He decided that this was the end of the ordeal. It was time to get down to work. The guy started killing zombies at a great speed and didn't even notice how quickly they were all over. Lin started collecting rewards, and noticed that he started getting single resource cards, which made him very upset. But then he calmed down and decided that he needed to rest now, and afterward, he would find something else. He completed the quest and received the item Blood-Absorbing Ring. The ring is capable of taking the enemy's power during battle and transferring it to its owner. Lin thought, since the equipment turned out to be so cool, the trainer might not be so great. But then he decided not to procrastinate and take him at once as well. Lin was excited. He was surprised to see that he had gotten a simple Automatic Collection #1 trainer. It allowed you to automatically collect items from slain zombies. which were then placed in a vault. Lin was excited. He was already curious about the functions of the other trainers and what he would get next. Now, he didn't have to collect items. He simply received notifications from the program about collecting. Suddenly, Lin realized that he hadn't been keeping track of time at all during the battle with the cat and completing his tasks. It turned out that time had passed quite quickly. He decided that it was time to flee to the Lee Manor immediately. Meanwhile, back at the manor, the Lord waited for any information from the mercenaries. They had been gone since the morning and it was already lunchtime, and Go was getting really annoyed. Though he was reassured that the university was in a difficult situation right now, there were a lot of zombies there, hence the delay. The gentleman was also annoyed with the game. His guards had almost killed the zombies. He gave the final blow, but still didn't get any experience points. Suddenly, the front door of the house swung open, and everyone saw someone's silhouette. It was Uncle Rong. They asked him if he had been able to find the orphan boy and the girl. He threw the bag on the floor and said he found the girl, but the guy had disappeared somewhere. The young gentleman began to ask where she was, and ordered her to be brought immediately. Jun pointed to the bag and said the girl was killed. She is inside. Yao Jihan's roommate was found first, and then the girl herself. Her body was in the university's warehouse. She was killed and stuffed in a barrel. It also contained men's clothes soaked in blood. The girl was severely tortured before she died. The blows were inflicted on her pain points. He added that the killer was likely well-versed in acupuncture points. He stabbed the knife with a special technique. From what he heard, the young gentleman could not contain himself. He felt sick. Jun said that this man must be just a master of torture. Even the most brutal killer wouldn't have managed so perfectly. He also suggested that Yao Jihan might have been killed for revenge, and most likely that killer intends to get to the young master as well. It was then that the young master remembered Lin. But in his opinion, a mere orphan could not possess such skills and abilities. Plus, he didn't have time to send that humiliating video, and accordingly, Lin couldn't know that Yao had set him up. Rong then inquired if Lin Zilo was actually Lin Zhang's son. Jun added that if it wasn't the guy himself who did it, it's likely he could have gotten help from someone. And 100 guards won't be enough to counter such a brutal killer. He said more people are needed for security. The young master was surprised, as Uncle Rong was among the top 10 mercenaries of the Dragon State. And he told Jun to recruit as many guards as he could, even those who had only learned to fight. He was afraid to die. Uncle Rong promised that he would do his best and protect the Li family even at the cost of his own life. Meanwhile, Lin Zilo was heading towards the Li family's manor, killing all the zombies that got in his way. Thus, he had managed to reach the 8th level already. He didn't expect it himself. The guy figured that if he could get up that fast, he wouldn't have to fight in the quest. He finally reached the place that overlooked the Li family's manor. He decided to have a snack before the important battle. In his mind, he turned to Li Haobo and said that he had come to see him. There were a great many guards with varying levels of training around the entire mansion. Lin cautiously got closer. No one was able to notice that the guy was already very close. He remembered well where the button that opened the secret passage was located. Lin specifically decided to leave an escape route for Haobo, and then when he tried to escape, he would catch him. It was the famous reception of one of the great warriors of the Dragon State. Afterward, he looked closer at the guards and saw that they were mercenaries. In a previous life, this particular squad was the guy's worst enemy. They're the ones Li Haobo trusts the most. Right now, the guy had the advantage. He knew all their techniques, capabilities, and strength. But unfortunately, the plans of the Li family, the guy in his past life never got to know. Suddenly, he saw Mr. Rong near the main entrance, who was talking to the mercenaries. He recognized him. Rongjan was one of the gods of war. Before the end of the world came, he worked as a military man, reported directly to the Li family, strong in various forms of hand-to-hand combat. In his previous life, after the game started, he started chasing the guy at the behest of Li Haobo. After several attempts to catch Lin failed, he decided to kill him. He had stonewalled the guy a few times. You could say it was his toughest enemy, but he had become Rongjan's biggest disgrace. Since the guy had slipped right out from under his nose several times, the mercenary had lost his reputation. He's been labeled the biggest embarrassment. As soon as the guys meet, both of their eyes bleed. Suddenly, Jun sensed something, and abruptly began to look around. Lin was nearly spotted, but managed to hide behind a tree in time. The boy decided for himself that this time he would definitely finish off this mercenary. And if he kills him, it can be considered that the Li family's most important protector has been destroyed and half the job is done. Rong continued to search the courtyard. His instincts did not fail him, but Lin used the mask of concealment. Then one of the mercenaries informed him that a young gentleman was summoning him. Lin realized that he should take advantage of this moment and slip inside the mansion. John left with the feeling that there was someone in the courtyard after all. He couldn't have imagined it. He instructed to increase patrols on the grounds and protect the estate. The chief mercenary didn't care who it might be, but he definitely wouldn't miss it. Lin bided his time until nightfall. It was 12 o'clock at night. The young master was already very eager to sleep, so he asked Jun if he could go to his room. But the mercenary objected. His gut told him that someone was following them. It made the young gentleman terribly angry that he had to sit there all night because of someone. Then, to distract him a little, the butler suggested that the gentleman entertain himself. During the day, Jun captured one zombie in order to test on it and invent an anti-zombie weapon. The young gentleman said there were already enough zombies around and asked for this to play with. The mercenary, of course, couldn't refuse him, though he was worried that the zombie might hurt him. But the gentleman had to be appeased by any means necessary, and this one wasn't the worst. The young gentleman was overconfident, so he assured me that everything would be fine. Uncle Jun then ordered one of the mercenaries to bring the zombies to this room. The zombie was of enormous size, so extra security arrived in the room. A young gentleman asked me to bring him a large cage. There were several girls in it. As soon as he started ringing the bell, something would happen to them. It was like they were going crazy. The Lord was already very bored watching this. He had been playing with these girls for over a month now. It's always more fun with new toys, but he could still use these girls. He believed it was time for their payback, as he had fed and watered them for too long. The young lord ordered all the shackles to be removed from the zombie and launched him into the cage. He dreamed of watching a zombie eat them, ripping them to shreds. The mercenaries were shocked that there were such twisted people in the world. One of the subordinates asked to carry out this order. He imitated his master in everything. Afterward, he took the key and removed the steel mask from the zombie. He was excited. The other mercenaries held the zombie while the shackles were removed. After that, he was to be put in a cage. One of the guards thought this was too cruel and offered to let the girls go. The young master got mad at him. Then the head of the guard began to ask for forgiveness and justify it by saying that Wang Dahu's boyfriend was new. But the guard continued on his knees to beg for the girls to be released. The Lord noticed that it had been a while since anyone had tried to argue with him, so he asked the guy if he knew how to fight. He ordered a good beating, but the guy easily stopped his opponent. Rong was surprised that Wang was able to stop his fist so easily, as his opponent seemed much stronger. The main mercenary even found it very interesting, and he was waiting to see how this fight would end. The guard couldn't tolerate such embarrassment from the newcomer, and wanted to teach him a lesson. So he called a couple of buddies for help. Then they pinned the guy's arms down and the head guard started punching him in the face. The young gentleman ordered that he be given a good beating, but not killed. He wanted Wang Dahu to see with his own eyes the death of the girls he wanted to protect. When the guy was done being beaten, he was led straight to the cage and started unleashing the zombies. He was crazy, huge, and very hungry, so he immediately attacked the defenseless girls. Wang Dahu couldn't hold back his tears. His mouth was covered to stop him from screaming. And when the zombie had dealt with all the girls, the young master ordered a guy to be launched into the zombie's cage. Everyone was having fun, and they were happy to do the master's bidding. The beaten guy was thrown into a cage with zombies. He had no strength at all to stand up for himself. He thought of his mother, and mentally apologized for not coming home to take care of her. But then, Dahu pushed the panic away, pulled himself together, and decided that he would fight to the end, and abruptly stood up and started to be a zombie with all his might. And afterwards he fell on the floor. But the zombie was stronger. He stuck his sharp claws right into the guy's back. The young master loved the spectacle. He insisted that they keep fighting. In the end, both the zombie and the guy died in the fight. And as he was dying, he kept blaming himself for taking the job. It was a great opportunity for Lin to sneak in while everyone was having fun in the main room. He went down and eliminated one of the guards. Afterwards, he put on his clothes. All the guards were so tired that they didn't immediately suspect anything. These guys worked for 24 hours with virtually no rest, but then they noticed the switch, and Lin decided it was time to kill them all. He moved further into the territory, killing more and more guards, but one of them still managed to fire a flare before dying. Lin didn't hesitate, and knocked it down with his sword before it could activate in midair. In his previous life, he had done a good job of researching all of the Li family's ammunition, which came in handy now. In this way, he managed to destroy all the guards in the outer part of the manor. And then he was given a special assignment. An eye for an eye. The journey of vengeance had begun. 269 people who were in the manor had to be killed. Lin rejoiced. He had another reason to kill Haobo. He accepted the assignment in a flash. The program also provided him with a magical barrier of revenge. If someone went outside its boundaries, Lin would be able to easily track them down. The boy had heard of such a thing before, but today he could see for himself how useful it was. Suddenly he noticed that people were starting to die, but he wasn't doing anything at all. Then he decided it was time to go inside and see what was going on. The guys inside were having fun with the girls, and for their pleasure, they could kill them. Suddenly, a voice appeared in the room and offered to play with him. Everyone in the room was greatly frightened, and Rong said that he had never met someone who could create such a strong aura of death before. He thought that in comparison, he himself seemed just a little boy. The young master was greatly frightened that everyone was right and he had really come to be killed. But the aide kept reassuring him and saying that Mr. Rong would be able to handle everything with his army. Jun stood up and walked to the front, and afterward motioned for their secret guest to come out and talk. The chief mercenary realized that if someone was able to get inside, then all the guards outside were definitely already dead. Even though those guys weren't well trained, but still each of them was worth a dozen soldiers. Jun pondered who could do such a thing. A man or a god or a whole army. The mercenary instructed them to spread out and watch. They realized that an attack was imminent. Suddenly a gas cannon flew towards them. The guards started screaming with pain in their eyes. They couldn't see anything. After that, the door swung open and Lin leisurely entered the room. He decided to kill everyone at once, so he used a spike attack. To speed up the process and get to the Lord sooner, he started killing the others with a spinning sword. Rong was just standing back at this point. Lin moved closer and threw another ammunition towards him. There was a huge explosion, and the mercenary never managed to see the enemy's face. A mercenary came up to Jun and said that it looked like magic spikes. They killed all the servants and the Lord's guards. And those spinning swords even killed a crocodile, a bear, and a wolf. Rong became angry. It turned out that besides the master, Zhao Bo, Rong, and this guy, there were still 66 guys. The master was out of his mind. He demanded to know who had dared to do all this and ruin their fun. He said that Uncle Jun should avenge it and bring the corpse of the enemy here. The Lord couldn't believe that just one man could handle such a huge army. Rong instructed Zhao to take the master and that guy to the secret tunnel, and he and the rest of the boys will go to apprehend the killer outside. Zhao agreed. But it still seemed to him that the assassin had not left, but continued to watch them. Rong didn't reply anything. He patted the butler on the shoulder and thought that this Zhao is really smart. As Lin had anticipated, Rong decided to split up and go outside to protect Li Haobo. He decided that he would deal with the rest of them first, in order to leave without any problems. He looked up the information on the mercenary commander in the system, and was surprised that he'd been able to get 3 pieces of equipment in such a short time. John started strutting around and telling the guy to stop hiding and come out. But Lin knew it was a stupid ploy to stall for time and let Haobo leave. That's when the guy decided it was about time he used the zombie cat horn. Then the guy took out a knife and used it to cut the chandelier. He wanted to make it clear that he was in the room. And when the chandelier fell, hundreds of shards seriously injured Rong's subordinates and killed some. Those who managed to survive were killed by the zombie cat. Lin did the same by using his acceleration. Lin finally stopped. He turned around to face the mercenary, wearing a mask. Jun was really pissed off that the program didn't display any information about this guy. His anger overwhelmed him, and in an orderly tone he told the boy to give his name. Lin looked at the remaining men, with the realization that there was no worthy opponent among them. Their technique was very weak. Lin was even a little disappointed by this. Then the guy with acceleration made his way straight to John, killing all the guards that were in his way. The mercenary commander was badly frightened. The guy's knife was right at his throat. Then he knelt before him. It was only at this point that he instructed the cat to track Haobo. The magical barrier of vengeance didn't notify anyone leaving the manor, so it must not be far away. Lin asked if he could still call Rong a commander since all of his mercenaries were already dead. But the man answered nothing. All his labors were destroyed. His will to resist was crushed. Jun begged the guy to reveal his identity. Otherwise, he would have no peace even after death. But that's exactly what the guy liked. He walked right up to the commander, after taking out his knife and slowly slit his throat. Jun died. Lin remembered that in his previous life, this commander had called him a small insect and trampled him into the ground. Called him an orphan and a scumbag. Said he dared to defy the Li family. He's the one who taught the kid one important thing. You don't just talk before you kill. You kill right away. When Rongjong was dead, it could be said with all certainty that Lin had massacred the Li family's main protector. From now on, getting revenge on this family will be much easier, and not even that interesting anymore. The young master hid with Zhao Bo in one of the rooms of the manor. He was pretty scared, so the assistant had to reassure him that John would handle everything. Suddenly, someone threw the corpse of one of the mercenaries right through the door. It was a sign that their assassin was close at hand. Master realized that this was exactly the same person who had killed Yao Zilo. And now he had gotten to him. But the aide said no one will get here because very few people know about this room. But the master objected. Surely the assassin must know everything. Otherwise, how did he know about their relationship and Yao? He assumed it was Lin who had found some strong mercenary, or it had been left to him by his father. But the aide objected. When they killed his father, they destroyed everything the Lin family had. If the head didn't tell someone to leave someone behind, then Lin Zulo wouldn't be alive either. At that moment, Lin was just outside the door and heard everything they were talking about. He did not hold back and spoke. The young master heard his voice. He recognized it as Lin Zuilo's voice. That was when Lin realized that this Li family had been following him for a long time. He realized there were many more stories behind him that he had no idea about. The young master suddenly said that he should have killed Lin Zuilo a long time ago. The guy asked the lord who Lin Jian was and why they had destroyed everything associated with him. The young gentleman laughed. After all, the boy didn't even know his own father's name. It turned out that Lin Jian was going to denounce the young master's father just when he was about to be promoted. He wanted to destroy everything the Li family had been working towards for years, which was why the Lin family was turned into ashes. He said that if it wasn't for the head, he wouldn't be the sole survivor of the family. But the lord was interested in who helped the guy. If Lin was alone, the guards would have dealt with Ni long ago. Lin said that this conversation has no point. It will still destroy the entire Li family. The young master laughed very loudly. He didn't believe the boy was capable of such a thing. Lin kicked the door open and walked inside with the zombie cat. The guy was still wearing the mask. The gentleman's assistant stepped forward to protect him from the assassin. Suddenly a cat pounced on him, but he successfully threw it back. At that moment, 30 minutes had just passed since the zombie cat had been summoned, and it had disappeared. And that's when Lin took off his mask. They realized that he had done it after all. He's the killer. The young master was shocked that it was really Lin Zuilo. He couldn't believe that such an orphan was able to kill Rongjang and enter the Li Manor. The guy replied that old-school people can't survive in a doomsday game. Once the first 7 days pass, their well-trained soldiers can't even handle one zombie on the street. The young master wondered how Lin was able to become so ill. The guy said he could easily take them on alone, without any help. He decided to start with the butler, and dealt him several blows in a row. But he fought them off. Lin noticed that this butler was stronger than even Rongjang himself. He decided, since it had come to this, he would have to use another technique. The butler tore off his clothes. Suddenly he was quite muscular for his age. But to Lin, this was nothing. He was still determined to blow his opponent's head off. That's when he decided that he needed to engage the spinning swords technique. He managed to hurt the butler, though he didn't expect it. It turned out he'd been boxing for over 50 years. Lin said he could not leave the matter unfinished. He would only rest when all his enemies were dead. After saying that, he killed the old man with his sword. This was proof that strength alone was not enough. In order to win, you need to change your technique and develop speed. Then Lin looked around to see where the young master was. As it turned out, from what he saw and from fear, he felt sick, so he fainted. The guy stepped closer to him and stuck his sword right into his leg. Such a technique worked perfectly, and the gentleman immediately woke up. He continued to strike his leg one after another, and the guy started screaming in pain. Afterward, he even started threatening him that his father would do anything to get revenge for such an attitude. But then the young master realized that today was his last day of life. He asked Lin to put him out of his misery. Lin was of course going to kill the master. But not so fast. He remembered that he had saved a blunt crampon knife especially for this occasion, which was very difficult to cut anything with, and he tried to stick it right between his master's legs. But the knife was so blunt that it could not be plunged in. Lin continued to inflict wounds with this knife, with words that reflected his essence. So it also reflects the journey the guy had to go through, hiding for a whole decade. It was a pity to him that this lord's suffering was not even 1% of Lin's suffering. The young gentleman didn't understand what the guy was talking about. What 10 years he was talking about. After all, he only found out about the guy 3 years ago, and that's when he started thinking up ways to torture the guy. Lin continued to cut him, out of 2 reasons, revenge and fun. Then he plunged the knife right into his chest, and said it was revenge for all his Lin family he had never seen. And then he kept torturing him just for the fun of it. He certainly deserved it. Then he took the crucible tongs, and thanked the master, for it was he who devised the cruelest tortures. He asked him if he knew how many people he'd taken his life, and he started pulling out his teeth. In terms of torture, the master was simply a genius, so in a way, Lin even admired him. Master said he had once used such torture, but he was interrupted by Lin, and continued pulling out his teeth. In his past life, the Lord had learned so many new ways of inflicting pain. Xylo believed that not even 1% did what he did to the rest of them. He looked at the Lord's condition and said there was no more point in torturing him further. And it was a bit of a shame he couldn't use more torture techniques anymore. For a moment, the lad assumed the gentleman was faking, and once more thrust the knife into his chest. But the man no longer made a single sound. He was dead. Lin had destroyed his psyche, so his body saw no reason to resist and fight for survival. To be sure, he pointed the rotating swords at the Lord for the last time. Thus, they shredded his body so much that Lin was forced to use an umbrella to avoid getting dirty. The boy went outside. It was about 3 o'clock in the morning, and he noticed that Lee Manor looked good under the night sky. The program noticed that there was a change in the guy's state of mind. He was given the talent, lust for revenge. Since he had carried out his revenge, his strength against his enemies had greatly increased. He was glad that the lust for vengeance was so useful, as it increased his stats by as much as 20%. The higher his stats are in the game, the more he can increase them with talent. So he also completed the mission and killed 269 people on the estate. As a reward, the guy received a bronze-level outfit. It was a magic staff item that allowed one to increase the ability and activation speed of magic. Lin realized that this thing he wouldn't be able to use. It would be of interest to mages. So he put it in his backpack to sell it for a good price when he had the chance. He noticed that the weapons for killing people in this game are just barbaric. When you kill a person in a Doomsday game, their vault disappears, and you can't get stuff from there. The only way to find something is to search a corpse's pockets. The Doomsday game doesn't encourage killing people. Lin decided to check the valuable items that were in Chunjang's vault. Of the valuables there, he found only a cleansing pendant that could save a life during a battle. He put the rest in the vault. Then the guy said he wanted a trainer, and the program fulfilled his wish. It was a level 1 absolute slave that allowed you to get one zombie as a slave who must do the master's bidding. Lin was simply delighted. He had never seen anything like this before, and he was definitely enjoying it. He figured that if this zombie was really going to be completely loyal to him, then that meant he wouldn't have to do the dirty work. Ever since he found out that Yao had betrayed him, he had decided that he wouldn't trust anyone else. He was going to live his whole life alone. Now he will have a hard-working zombie to accompany him everywhere. With each new level, the guy could get another slave as a reward. He already had a picture in his head of him leading hundreds of zombies. It seemed unrealistic, but it was still interesting how much he needed to raise his level to achieve such a result. So he wondered what kind of zombies were suitable for the role of slave. He hoped they were the ones that would then go on to Zombie King status. Thinking about it, the guy headed to the Lee family's basement. There might be something useful there. When he entered, he saw many precious things and jewelry. But after the end of the world began, they were no longer of any value. He also found scrolls with inscriptions. He remembered that they must have some value, so he put them in the vault. Everything else he smashed and tore just for fun. Afterward, he decided to take a walk around the estate. It had become his place to sleep tonight. Neither in his past life nor in this one had he yet had the opportunity to live in such luxurious places. He entered one of the rooms and saw a human silhouette, which confused the guy. There can't be any living people in this house as he killed them all. He shined his flashlight and saw that it was a zombie behind the bars. He was level 4. Lin noticed that this zombie was very strong, and at night, he couldn't be distinguished from a bronze-level boss at all. He thought it was a great coincidence to find a zombie right after he found such a trainer. He moved closer to it, but the zombie was completely calm. Lin didn't understand why it wasn't lunging at him. His energy was only 3. If he were in human society, he would be considered feeble-minded. Also, the guy noticed that this zombie definitely had a temper. Lin then asked the system if he could choose this zombie as a slave. The system agreed since his characteristics did not exceed Lin's. Then the boy decided to choose him. He may have been dull-witted, but he was also obedient. But as the system began its work, the zombie suddenly began to fight back. In the end, he was still enslaved. Lin had to come up with a name for this zombie. Lin decided since this guy was big and strong, you could call him Silly. The boy asked Silly to show his strength. He didn't believe this cage could contain him. This zombie was indeed very strong. He easily unfastened the metal bars of the cage and stepped outside. Lin thought that was a very good thing. The zombie had demonstrated that it could follow orders. Afterward, he looked at all of his stats and thought, since he had such high stats, what would happen at night? He himself went to bed and ordered Silly to guard the main entrance and not let anyone disturb him. Lin managed to get a good night's rest and sleep in a comfortable bed, then went out to check on his zombie charge. When he opened the door, he saw that Silly was in the same place where Lin had left him. The guy praised the zombie and saw that he hadn't even touched the zombies he had killed. This was strange. Lin asked Silly Man why he hadn't eaten anyone. The zombie only waved his head in disgust. letting him know it wasn't for him. The guy was surprised and thought his zombie was really different from the others. As Lin sat down to eat dinner, he noticed how eagerly Silly looked at his food. It was really the first time he'd seen a zombie that didn't eat people, but regular food. Then he invited Silly to join him and have breakfast together. He figured he didn't know where to put those food cards before, but now the zombie would help him. Lin thought he planned to take revenge on Haobo being at the 5th level, but now he's on his 8th. And then there's Silly. Maybe we can change majors. The next target was the Mo Capital Museum. It was there that the scroll for switching specialties was located. After activating the profession change space, the player must complete 3 challenges in order to receive the scroll. If the player fails to complete the tasks within the specified time frame, the transition will fail and the player will be killed. In his past life, he was told by his roommates that there was treasure hidden in the museum, so they wanted to go there to find out. On the way there, he found out that his girlfriend Yao is cheating on him with Li Haobo. He wanted to take revenge on him at once, but he didn't know that his comrades had also been bribed. They dragged the guy into the specialty change space, in hopes that Lin wouldn't pass the test and die. But Lin still passed the tests, receiving a scar in battle that had been with him for 10 years. It was the 8th day since the Doomsday game began. It's now the 4th. I don't think there are any people in the museum. Now he thought that he should have better luck without Li Haobo, except that the zombie was too eye-catching. But Lin found a way out. He gave him the clothes of an ordinary guard. Outside, Lin noticed that Silly doesn't attack other zombies of his own free will. The other monsters don't touch him either, so he'll be able to sneak around stealthily and kill and slay zombies, as well as open treasure chests. It was very convenient. Guy could remain inconspicuous and avoid a bunch of problems. But if Silly opens the chest, he will gain no experience or reputation. It would be a waste. In a previous life, on the 8th day of the end of the world, most of the zombies had already been killed by the players. But right now, Lin along with Silly will be problematic to deal with all those zombies. Also, the shift scroll can't be carried. Otherwise, the guy would have sent Stupid to get it. There was a group of guys outside the museum. Lin watched them and realized that they were the ones who had killed the zombies they had seen earlier. If he could join them and enter the museum together, a lot of problems could be avoided. Turns out there are a great many survivors inside who have banded together. They had a plan to set out when 200 men were gathered. The weapons would have to be prepared by themselves. Gao Dong took charge, although many people didn't like it because he was cautious. Many of the camp thought they were already strong enough and didn't want to wait for anything. They had very few food cards left, so people were starting to panic. One guy shouted out in full voice that Dune purposely wanted everyone to die and take the resource cards for himself. Suddenly, that person received a slap from Tianning Jing for what he said. A quarrel broke out between the men, and even Dune could not influence and stop it. Suddenly, they heard the sound of an elevator, which meant that someone had arrived at their place. The elevator door opened, and everyone saw 2 guys. One was wearing a mask, the other looked like his guard. People were curious about who they were and why they came to their Death God Club. Dune approached first to find out everything, since the program had all the information hidden. Lin replied that they were passing by and saw a crowd of people, so they decided to ask if they could join. Dune got excited and said of course they could join the God of Death Club. Then the guy decided to say his name was Lin Luo, and with him was his friend Silly. He used to be a dumb security guard for rich people. Do said that as chairman, he is happy to welcome new members to the club. Lin was glad that his plan had succeeded. He hadn't expected it to be so easy. Afterward, they went to Duo's office to talk privately, and Duo asked if they needed any help. Lin replied that their main goal is to become stronger. They like to fight, and they came here to develop themselves. Do was very happy, and said he would share the skill books, of which he had many, for the sake of friendship. The guy couldn't believe that they were willing to share skill books here for nothing. Duo held out the Blind Fury combat skill book to the guy. Lin knew that free cheese only comes in a mousetrap, and waited for the catch. After familiarizing himself with the skill, Lin was confused by the fact that the player was losing his mind control while using it. Lin then decided to simply thank Duo for providing the gift. But he had already made his conclusions about this man. Duo stopped his new friends afterward, and quietly said he had a card with a bucket of fried chicken. He realized he was messing around with this book, so he wanted to make up for it in some way. But Lin refused, and said they'd rather go hunting with Silly Man to earn points. Lin was already ashamed that he had taken the skill book. If he had taken the card as well, he would have died of shame. Do said that if they needed food or water, they could take it from the warehouse with no problem. The chairman thought Lin was not a bad guy. He gave him such a bad skill book as a gift, and he didn't refuse. As they walked away from Gao Dong, there was a company walking towards them. They warned them not to do too much business with the chairman, but Lin would not tolerate such a thing, and ordered Stupid to deal with it. The zombie snapped the guy's head off in just one motion. The others were frightened and dropped their weapons. They were in a panic, for Jia Tai had always competed with Gao Dong for the position of gang leader. Gao came out to the noise. He saw Jia's corpse and asked what had happened. When he was told everything, he was very happy. Brother Lin had given him a great gift. Now, it is unlikely that anyone in the near one time will claim to be the head of the club. Lin and Silly Boy went to get something to eat. The boy asked the system if Silly could attack him or do something evil. In response, learned that Silly will always defend his master in any situation. Lin then decided that he would use the blind rage skill on the fool, thus increasing his characteristics. He held out the zombie skill book and ordered him to study. Lin thought how nice it was to have a brainless friend, but he himself had to try to get to the next level. Afterward, they decided to go to the Mo Capital Library. It was a great place to try out a new skill. There was a game store nearby, and the boys decided to look in there first. When they got inside, they saw many different products of different categories. Lin had 6,000 gold coins. One bronze level item was worth 2,000. Then the guy decided he would use that amount to buy pants, gloves, and a bib. When he finished shopping and walked out of the game store, he saw a bunch of zombie corpses. Turns out they were all taken care of by Stupid, and all the guy had to do was collect the rewards. In order to advance to the 9th level, Lin had to gain 40% experience. One of the rewards included a bronze item called Sword of Quanshu. The guy decided that if he combined the characteristics of this sword with his Tang sword, it would make a powerful new weapon. Although it was risky, Lin still made up his mind. If something went wrong, he would lose one of his swords. It all worked out. After the fusion, Lin obtained a new silver-level sword, Demon Decapitating Sword. Lin didn't expect it to work. He was insanely happy that he now had a silver-level weapon. He realized that with this sword, his chances of becoming a top player had increased dramatically. After that, they went to the library to retrieve the scroll. They had cleared the corridor of zombies in a flash, and it was even enough for Lin to advance to the 9th level. Then the guy said to head to the top floor. There were also a lot of zombies there, so Lin ordered Stupid to activate Blind Fury. In the blink of an eye, Silly stopped looking like himself. His main goal was to kill his opponents. At this time, Lin calmly observed what was happening. He marveled at this true natural power. When the effects of Blind Fury ended, Lin saw his characteristics increase significantly. Lin obtained the number 2 equipment scroll, and many other interesting items. Afterward, they decided to go to the top. There was the Mo's Capital store. When they got up, they saw that everything around them was scattered and broken. Lin knew that only a boss could do such a thing. In his previous life, when he reached the store, all the bosses had already been destroyed, but now they were in luck. He wanted to meet the boss who lived here as soon as possible. They approached the store. They were allowed to stay there for no more than 30 minutes a day. If this limit is exceeded, the program will charge a fine. If it is not paid, the player will be removed. Lin decided to head to the store and ordered Silly Man to stay away from anyone. There, he purchased a diamond-level special equipment at a discount. It was the Mo Capital's law enforcer suit. He immediately put it on as he was curious about what he could do. After that, they traveled onward. There was still a boss to deal with. Rather, it was him and they found the boss. It was a bronze-level zombie climbing boss. This boss kills those who love books with particular cruelty, since in his normal life he was a library worker. The system sent an alert. The guy was supposed to kill this boss. He instructed Stupid to drive the boss up the wall and keep the other zombies from coming in here. The zombie did, but then suddenly he started smashing the wall. Lin realized that the boss had used his illusionary attack ability. After that, the boss decided to actually attack Silly, but that was his mistake. Taking advantage of the opportunity, Lin jumped up to him from the front and struck him several times with his sword. As a result, he chopped off the boss's paws at the elbows, and he started running away from the scene. Lin gave him a couple seconds head start, and then caught up with the help of accelerating shoes. Afterward, he used the spinning sword and killed the boss. It was very easy. He saw that he had already gone to the 10th level, and realized that he needed to find the scroll as soon as possible. Pretty soon the freshman period will pass, and if he transfers first, the whole world will know about it. This time, he received the Yin-Yang Twins Super Tweener as a reward. It meant that the guy would now be able to have 2 majors at once. Although it was basically against the rules of the game, Lin was insanely happy. He could become the king of this world. He was so engrossed in thinking about this gift that he didn't immediately hear the zombies approaching him. But he was able to quickly deal with all of them at once by using the unearthly spikes attack. Lin took the silver chest, and they went to the top floor. There were zombies on the top floor, just the lower level ones, so the guy figured Silly could handle it himself. Giving the emu a hammer to help, the guy focused all his attention on the chest. The sturdy combat pants were there, as well as 50 points and gold coins. Just as he was examining all the rewards, the zombies massacred their opponents. Lin asked him to collect all the items, and afterward they were to meet downstairs. The freshman protective period had not yet passed, and the specialty change system was closed. Lin first decided to prepare to switch to the ghost specialty, and he hadn't decided about the second one yet. He hoped that all the members of the God of Death Club would get together, so he could make his punitive expedition to the museum early. After that, they went to Duo and asked when everyone would be going to the museum already. He replied that they had just recently found a couple more people. Now they were about 200 Cheluks, so they could move out in the evening. Afterwards, Duo went to gather everyone with the thoughts that he would definitely have no competition now. Likewise, he was also determined to keep Lin as his assistant. He considered him a pawn. People were rad to hear that the day had come when they would finally go to the museum for the great battle. They were so self-confident. Everyone wanted to rise several levels at once or get rich. Lin noticed that people perceived the Doomsday game as an easy battle. This surprised him. After all, when the protection period for newcomers is over, many will immediately perish. Dao asked Lin if he was confident in his fighting ability, for there were a huge number of zombies. He replied that the main thing was to organize people properly and to hurry to get there before 8 o'clock. All the people have approved the plan, so we need to act immediately. He added that his speed is the fastest in this club, so he will attack first. He took a piece of raw poisoned meat, left Silly with Duo, and quickly went into battle himself. He ordered the guys to take the meat and run. He started killing zombies. He added that those two should go to the chairman for their reward after completing the task. But this was a cunning plan. Lin didn't actually aim to kill the zombies. He planned to find the scroll first, and without anyone seeing it. When the boy entered the library and saw the scroll, he immediately decided that it must belong to him. Lin tried to break the glass, but it didn't succeed the first or even the second time. It took a lot of effort to do it. The system rewarded me with 500 reputation points. After the program moved the guy inside the scroll, that was unexpected. At first glance, he found himself in a small room with fire everywhere, but Lin found a hidden spot in the wall and activated the test. This one had to pass the mystic test. Lin thought that this time it was just as cruel as the last time. But suddenly the program analyzed everything and decided to change the trial for Lin to the ancient trial. Lin didn't understand what specialization he would end up with, but he still accepted the challenge. He placed his hand on the golden pearl to teleport to the test hall. He recognized the place. It looked creepy, blood everywhere. In his previous life, Lin had passed this level based on his hatred for Yao Jihan, and had passed terribly. He decided that things would definitely be different in this life. He's not that naive boy anymore. Suddenly the system showed an alert that said he had passed the test. The guy couldn't believe it. This time it was much simpler. Now he needed to touch the little pearl to get to the next level. In his past life, he also went to the second level filled with anger. At the very end, Lin couldn't endure everything and simply fainted. When he woke up, he found himself on the third level. In this life, he planned to endure to the end. There were voices in his head telling him to give up, because he would be moving on to the next level anyway. But he was clearly determined to see this ordeal through to the end. He chased the bad thoughts away. All the more reason for him to take another chance at revenge. He couldn't afford not to take it. He moved forward until he saw a huge white door. The boy assumed it was the end. He walked proudly into it. It was a sign that this was indeed a new life. The last level of the challenge remained, and Lin was determined to avenge the scar he had received in his past life. He went through the secret passage. Now the boy had to destroy the guardian beast. In a past life, it was a cat that left a scar on the guy's face with its sharp claws. This time he was already prepared, and as soon as the beast appeared towards him and began to attack, he swung his sword and left her with the same cut he had gotten in his previous life. One swing was enough to kill a cat beast. Lin passed the test and obtained a scroll of ghost specialty. But the guy didn't understand why he was still in that place, if he had completed the challenge. He went into the program to find some explanation there, and saw that the quest was considered unfulfilled, since he didn't get the legacy scroll. Turns out it's not enough to get the scroll, you also have to activate it. The program said to move forward, but this time the guy wasn't able to go through walls so easily. Lin turned his attention to the cracks on the wall, and when he touched them, a strong light began to emit. A pattern appeared where the cracks were. It was identical to the one on the scroll. Afterward, a door appeared in front of him. The boy entered it at once. On the table in the room, Lin saw another scroll and a pearl. He walked over to them. When the guy opened the scroll, he saw that only the name Chi Yu was written there. He was surprised, and assumed that that bird and bull were totems of the Zhuli tribe. Qi Yu was assassinated by Emperor Huangdi. The emperor beheaded the tribal leader. According to legend, Qi Yu's soul was preserved through witchcraft charms. Qiu knew that his soul would be scattered anyway. Therefore, he created a scroll with a test beforehand. The very last level is guarded by a cat with the blood of a magician. Mr. Qi Yu created trials to test the will to win and fighting skills. Lin met high standards, so he gets the right to inherit the great power of the Zhuli tribe. In order to receive it, you had to put your hands on the scroll. After combining this power with the Doomsday game, Lin was transferred to another specialty. Lin was very pleased. His specialty was called Commander-in-Chief. The guy noticed a ball on his hand. It was the Zhuli ball. Bronze level item, treasure of the Zhuli tribe. The Commander-in-Chief valued this weapon most of all, so it automatically goes to the one who passes the test. Lin didn't yet know how to use it, but it already seemed quite specific to him. After that, he returned to the library. Lin became the first player to switch to another specialty and received the title of Pioneer. Afterwards, he got acquainted with the description of the new specialty and the abilities of the ball. The guy was overcome with unimaginable joy. With such strength, he could stack zombies in stacks. He decided to try a ball that could absorb the power of other objects. By absorbing power, Zhuli's ball could increase in size and also increase its level. Now he has reached the bronze level. The ball could also give the player a Zhuli weapon, such as a sword or bow and arrow. Lin got so carried away that he received a warning from the system. If you frequently change the condition of the instrument, you may feel dizzy. The world notification reported that the player Yazetsai became the first Doomsday player who managed to reach the 10th level and switched to a specialty. Lin was incredibly proud of himself, because he received the only result in the world and a new title. The other players were madly angry that they should have tried better. Some people were already familiar with this name, and they simply began to hate it. After this, Lin received the silver-level equipment Evil Ghost Mask. With the help of this mask, it was possible to hide information about oneself from everyone except the 5th level. He immediately exchanged the concealment mask for a new reward and went to pick up the trainer. When Lin returned, the first thing he saw was the joy of the people. He came closer and saw Gao Duo speaking at the podium. According to him, today will go down in history. He also praised the new hero Stupid. Duo was surprised when he saw Lin. He had been gone for so long that everyone thought he had died. Afterwards, the chairman said that they managed to kill more than 1,500 zombies and gain many people as allies. Stupid alone killed about 100 zombies today. This is the best indicator. Afterwards, he led Lin to a room where there were many resources. The chairman was grateful to the guy, because it is obvious that today's victory is his merit. Lin understood that the more people joined, it meant there was an opportunity to get more equipment. This was great, because then Zhuli's ball would move to the diamond level. He could also exchange cards with resources for coins or even equipment. That is, for those items that are necessary for the Zhuli ball. Lin then decided to offer the chairman a deal, which surprised him greatly. But he replied that Lin had already helped a lot with Stupid, so he would do everything just like that. He guessed that the guy might need some equipment, so he prepared a special gift for him. The chairman held out his hand, which contained the ring. He thought that this way Lin would definitely always be on his side. The guy thanked the chairman for the gift and said that he would come to him at 7 o'clock. The protective period for newcomers will end very soon, so Lin wanted to familiarize himself with the new rules. At about 8 o'clock, he will need to make a deal with the members of the Death God Club. Therefore, he asked the chairman to gather all the people together at this time. Duo said that there was nothing to worry about. They had not considered themselves beginners for a long time, but he would still gather people. After this, Lin and Stupid went to rest and wait for that very time. The guy looked that Zhuli's ball had already absorbed enough energy and moved to the gold level. He didn't expect that he could obtain such an instrument so easily. I assumed it would be necessary to reach at least level 30. Before 7 o'clock, Lin still managed to go out into the city and kill several dozen zombies, thereby testing out the new characteristics of his knife. They quickly returned inside. The rookie's defensive period was over. The time for easy play has come to an end, so now it's truly the end of the world. Lin got acquainted with all the new rules. They turned out to be just as strict as in his previous life. Some zombies began to take on new, scarier, and stronger forms. The territories of the cities were divided. It was impossible to cross the border. All food products not created by the game began to quickly rot. Lin turned to see where Silly was, and saw that he was also in a state of transformation. According to the changes, Stupid will not be able to take on a new form, and his characteristics will only increase by half. But since Stupid was Lin's subordinate, he could switch to another specialty. Lin was delighted with this. He couldn't wait to choose a new specialty for him. Lin refused to hide in the program the fact that he topped the ranking of players with level 14. On the rating panel by level, he saw that Stupid was in third place. In his previous life, Lin hid his identity because of the Lee family's revenge. But now the Lee family has not gained the necessary strength and does not yet pose any threat to the guy. Later, the guy also received the title, the only one in the world. It was valid until he topped 3 ratings. With a satisfied feeling, Lin decided to go to the people from the Death God Club to fool them. When they entered the hall, they saw people who were overcome by despair and panic. They were experiencing a lack of resources to survive, and now zombies could kill them at any time. Lin decided that this was a great opportunity, and he needed to take advantage of it quickly. He loudly declared that he came to help and give hope for the future. Lin said that for coins, equipment, or tools, he would sell food for the whole day. People immediately rushed to the guy with their offers for exchange. That evening, he obtained 10,000 coins without much effort. Finally, he warned people not to make noise, otherwise they would attract zombies. And then he will order Stupid to flatten them with his favorite hammer. He then entered the room where Chairman Gaodong was hiding. He was very scared. Without further ado, Gao began asking Lin to take him with him. In return, he would do anything. Then Lin came up to him and quietly whispered in his ear what he had to do. Chairman Gao immediately went to carry out his instructions. In the morning, Lin decided that it was time to go kill zombies and earn new equipment. But he was also interested in whether the chairman had coped with it. Will he come to exchange equipment for cards? There were already many different zombies on the street. Lin and Stupid killed a couple and went in search of another. When they went upstairs, they overheard someone's conversation. The people at the top said that it was better to sit down in this place. There were definitely no zombies here anymore. In addition, there is a store nearby, and you can take money for food and get rich. But they were also wondering who killed all the zombies on the 2nd and 3rd floors. Surely this is some kind of strong group. Then Lee and Stupid went inside and saw a whole group of people there. They started chasing them away and saying that this place was already taken. But then they recognized Stupid, and it turned out that he had already risen to 2nd place in the ranking. Their mood changed dramatically, and they began to kindly invite the stranger and Stupid to their place. But they refused and went on about their business. There was nothing for them to do here. Lin constantly thought about the Mo City Honor Badge. He couldn't let anyone buy it first. But since Lin had the title of the only one, he was entitled to a discount. So he immediately acquired this sign. He immediately activated this diamond-level sign. As it turned out, the sign had quite a list of characteristics. In the meantime, many people managed to understand the essence of the game and get to the platform for changing their specialty. One of the teams did not know all the details and accidentally touched the ball that was nearby. Suddenly, they all found themselves in an unknown closed room. As soon as these guys were about to look for a way out, they were suddenly attacked by a huge zombie. As it turned out, this zombie was the boss and guarded the platform for changing specialty. They never had time to fully understand anything before the boss killed and ate them. Another team watched all this. They also didn't know who this monster really was. Suddenly, they heard someone's voices and quickly hid nearby. It was Lin and Stupid. They knew, of course, that they were being watched, but now they were interested in this place. The other team also recognized Stupid. They hoped that he would defeat that zombie, and then they would take the reward from him. When Lin went down to the ball, he received a notification with a task. To change the specialty, it was necessary to destroy this boss, as proof that the player has sufficient abilities. If there are 30 people on the platform, the task is activated automatically. Lin activated the mission. Very soon, the boss guard of the platform was supposed to awaken. Very soon, a zombie titan appeared in front of them, who owned the 19th level. Lin began to make fun of the zombie. Compared to him, the guy actually had more characteristics. The guy took Julie's bow and shot an arrow at the zombie. It hit him in the hand. He then instructed Silly to hit the zombie titan with a hammer. He immediately did everything. This made the zombie guarding the platform very angry. He is used to always getting what he wants. And then the enemy decided to inflict a sound attack on Lin and Stupid. It was so powerful that the guy began to feel dizzy. When Lin recovered from this attack, he began to attack with arrows again. They seriously injured the Titan. But later the zombie realized that he could take one of the cobblestones and use it as a shield. Lin had another powerful move, which was Blind Fury, and he ordered Stupid to activate it. And while he was dealing with the zombie Titan, Lin was waiting for the right moment to strike. But Lin was still a so-so archer, so he hit the Titan in the buttocks. The second time, while Stupid was distracting his attention, he again ended up in the same place. This increased the zombie's rage level so much that it activated the Titan blood and became a silver-level boss. The guy looked at his characteristics and was shocked. They were even close to gold level. Killing the platform guard has become much more difficult, So the reward for completing the task has increased. Silly was at the recovery stage, and there was no point in hoping for him. Then Lin decided to take Julie's sword. Perhaps with him, he could have won. But then he remembered that he had not only Stupid, but also a 3X robot and a zombie cat. He called them for help, and he himself decided to attack Julie. Lin had the ability to control her subordinates with her thoughts. Taking advantage of this, he built a strategy and attacked simultaneously with the robot and the cat. It worked, and the zombie titan was already at the limit of his capabilities. And then the enemy decided to activate the wrath of the titan. If this continues for a long time, then Lin will not be able to withstand it. But one of the titan's arms was wounded, so the guy decided to attack at maximum speed. He jumped over the zombie, made a successful attack, and stabbed him right in the neck. Suddenly, he began to receive notifications that players had begun to be added to his team. His remuneration level has decreased. Lin looked back and saw that the team that had been watching them all this time had begun to descend onto the platform. Thus, these players decided to cheat and also get a reward without making any effort. Lin approached them, but the team was not at a loss, but said that they had come to help. The guy just laughed. He asked why they came only now, and before that they were hiding nearby. Most of all, Lin disliked lying, so he immediately killed the liar. The rest rushed to run away, saying that if he killed them, then no one would consider him a hero. Lin replied that he was not a hero, and he will kill anyone who interferes. That's what he did with them. Then he returned to the zombie titan and killed it, after which he received another title, Silver Fighter. Lin went to the chest, and opening it he saw a scroll and a quill there. Lin signed an agreement stating that a statue in honor of Lin Ziluo would now be erected on this platform. Also, anyone who wants to change their specialty will have to not only kill zombies, but also pay a fee, a percentage of which will go to the guy. As a result, Lin reached level 15. Until the 16th, there were 2,800 experience points left to gain. He also became the first player on Blue Star who was able to activate the platform. He received the title Master of Specialty Change. It was already evening, so Lin decided it was time to go to a secluded place and count the rewards. He brought Stupid, who was gaining strength after the battle, to his senses, and together they went to rest. Since Mo City was the first city to open the platform, all players received a 1-level upgrade as a reward. This, of course, was the merit of Lin, who was registered as Ayazi in the program. Everyone began to admire him and thank him. The company in the Land of the Dragon was also interested in this man and his achievements. They were sure that this Z was actually from the Land of the Dragon. He just went to carry out a mission in Mo, and now he can't return from there. But his heart will still belong to their country. They hoped that he would still return to his homeland. Lin looked at his merits, and he was now already at level 16. Among many interesting things, Lin also received the demonic chainmail of concealment. This is silver-level equipment designed to combat magicians. After reviewing all the rewards, Lin concluded that he already had a lot of things, so not all the items were so interesting. He asked for another reward. It again turned out to be ordinary. The guy was a little upset. When he opened the golden chest, he received Hua Qiang's watermelon knife. It was sharp, but no more. But still the guy decided that Julie's ball would absorb that knife. Maybe it would come in handy. Then Lin decided to try the elixir of physical strength. He drank it and went to hunt zombies. Fulmar had already fully recovered, so he took him with him. First, Lin killed a huge zombie. It was easy, and then he got excited. The guy asked Stupid to attract as many zombies as possible to this place. It was necessary to kill the maximum number of monsters until the effect of the elixir ran out. Silly began to hit the ground with all his strength with his hammer, and zombies immediately appeared from all corners. Yazi's progress was closely watched by the heads of the Yan family and the Yun family. The head of the Li family, Li Haobo's father, was also present at this meeting. He did not treat the head of the An family very kindly, but he could stand up for himself, saying that he should let him boss his stupid children. He added that his Li Haobo was unlikely to last even a couple of days. Li got really excited, but was stopped. Today we have gathered here to talk about Yatsu. No one had heard of him before. It was surprising that an ordinary person could reach such a level in a few days. Li said that they must find him, and do everything for the guy to join them. Now everything has changed in this world, and the leaders have even more chances to take over this world. If Yazi couldn't be of any use to them, then they would simply take away his equipment. That evening, Lin earned more than enough, so he went to his hotel room to rest. And from the window he saw Zhang Yuanzhong, who was previously ranked second in the ranking, fighting hard against the zombies. Lin remembered that in his previous life, this guy was at the 8th level at this time, and only the day after tomorrow he will receive a new specialty. And judging by the present, Lin's rebirth greatly influenced this world. But even if everything changes, he will still be able to withstand anything. Afterwards, the guy wanted to remember what ordinary life used to be like before the game appeared. So he went to take a hot shower, and then fell asleep in the soft bed. Suddenly, in the middle of the night, a zombie rat made its way through the sewers into the guy's hotel. She quietly snuck into his room and attacked sharply, but Lin heard everything in time. He quickly grabbed hold and cut this rat into 2 pieces with his sword. It turned out it was an invasion of zombie rats. All over the city, people were trying to escape these beasts. Lin listened, and thought that now either a crowd of people or a pack of rats was heading here. It was strange that the system did not warn with an alert. Therefore, they were just stray rats. He decided to go out and scout out the situation so that he could be prepared for any situation. But strangely enough, the guy didn't find anyone. But he couldn't be wrong. It was definitely a very loud sound. He continued searching. Judging by the organization of these rats, they are definitely being led by a boss. He realized that tonight he too would have a battle. Lin took Silly and went with him to the roof. From there, it was possible to better understand the situation. The guy saw a huge number of rats that were attacking people. He thought that if he could kill their boss, he would definitely make good money. But then I decided not to risk it, because I didn't know for what purpose these rats appeared here in the first place. He left Stupid in the same place, and he moved further along the roofs of the houses. Lin hoped to learn as much as possible about this invasion, but nothing was clear. In an instant, all the rats disappeared somewhere. Lin called Silly to him, and suddenly they saw above them a large number of zombie birds. He ordered Stupid not to move. They couldn't handle so many zombies. Lin didn't understand what was happening at all. Birds and rats not only communicate with each other, but also enter the estate in an organized formation. Lin and Silly climbed higher to see what was happening in the estate. They saw that all the animals were heading towards the portal. It is unknown where it led. Closer to morning, all the animals disappeared. Lin and Stupid went down to double-check that no one was left. During this, Lin came across an unfamiliar quest. He decided he had nothing to lose, so he set out to complete it. Upon entering, he found himself in a small, gloomy room. He touched the walls. There were no secret passages. Then Lin hit the wall with his sword so that sparks fell. The program sent a notification about the activation of the quest Labyrinth of Despair. The guy had to find a way out of this maze, destroying all the zombies that were on the way. The labyrinth was also full of various traps. One wrong move could lead to death. It also became known that the labyrinth has not yet been opened. This proves that the danger of the system is quite great. It turns out that he entered the labyrinth at a time when it was filled with various animals. That's where they were going through the portal. Neither equipment nor tools will work in the labyrinth. But at least Lin still had Julie's sword. The game still could not take away the Julie Char from him, since the guy was spiritually connected with it. Data optimization has been completed. The quest was adapted for Lin. He could begin completing this task. Suddenly, the sky appeared above his head. Lin thought that now the quest had become even more pleasant. But since he entered the quest early, thereby violating the order of passage, as punishment, the difficulty was increased by 50%. Lin was very angry, but still went to look for a way out of this labyrinth. Almost immediately, he fell into a trap. Sharp spears were flying straight from the wall. At one point, he even felt a little scared. It was not so easy to evade them. Afterwards, he continued to destroy. Now he could only rely on his own intuition and memory. Lin had a very strange feeling inside. He hadn't experienced anything like this for a long time. He turned right and saw a skeleton. Why he was there, Lin still didn't understand. But then the guy noticed the door. He knocked, but no one answered. Then Lin himself decided to go inside. As it turned out, there was a zombie rat there. The guy immediately dealt with her and received a food card as a reward. This was very helpful. By that time, Lin was already very hungry. Having refreshed himself, he went on to look for a way out of this labyrinth. He followed a strategy in which he always had to turn right. But this strategy led him to a dead end. Later, he found several more doors, but only 1 in 10 had a boss. Lin was very upset and angry. He stopped to think about everything. All the intersections in this labyrinth were similar. 2 out of 3 paths lead to death. Among these 2, one is filled with traps, the second is empty. If you reach the end, you will definitely find a door behind which there will be zombie animals, and for killing them, you will get cards with resources or weapons. The guy noticed that the number of animals in the room was equal to the number on the door. He assumed that the same situation would happen with bosses. That is, in some rooms, there will be several of them. Now he understood why this labyrinth deprives players of hope. The animals will only get stronger in the future. You never know what trap will be waiting around the corner. He decided that now he had to be even more careful. Otherwise, he would lose. He entered the next room and, as expected, saw two bronze-level bosses there. The zombie cats immediately attacked him. After killing them, Lin moved to the 18th level. Thus, the guy gradually moved forward and was able to hold out in the labyrinth for 3 days. On the 4th day, his sword became a completely new weapon, since his strength had improved greatly during this time. Now Lin could kill zombie animals much faster, which is what he actually set out to do. Meanwhile, people in the capital of Mo were wondering where Yazi and Stupid had gone. Many people have successfully moved to the next levels and changed specializations. But the proof that Z was still alive was the presence of his name on the rating panel. And Lin had already managed to get comfortable in the labyrinth. Each time there were more and more zombies. By killing them, he began to receive rewards much better than before. As a result, he received the Eye of Understanding reward, which enabled him to understand the weaknesses of his opponent. Lin realized that now other players would be an open book to him. Lin was already very tired, but still continued on his way. There was no time for rest. He went to the next room, inside which was a zombie raven. The guy immediately used the Eye of Understanding, and all the weaknesses of the enemy were revealed to him, as well as hints on how the enemy could be destroyed. He destroyed this enemy and then looked at the map. There wasn't much left at all. Lin almost reached his goal. He continued to destroy. A premonition told the guy that he was already very close. You need to be careful. Suddenly, at the end of the corridor, Lin saw a huge door with a dragon design. He went inside and did not immediately understand what kind of fiery funnel was in the middle of the room. Later, the program sent a notification with congratulations. Lin managed and found a way out of the labyrinth of despair. As a reward, he received 2 trainers and the border destroyer key. With this key, it was possible to open the magical barrier for a few seconds. Lin thought that the reward was kind of strange, and there were no detailed descriptions for the rewards. He decided that there might be something else in the room, so he began to search it. He also found a scroll that said that no one had ever managed to complete the labyrinth to the end. The skeleton that he saw earlier belonged to one of the players. It was also said that in the labyrinth, one could obtain the power of trigrams. This is the power that Fu Shi himself, the creator of this labyrinth, possessed. He approached the pendant to receive this power. Suddenly something unusual happened. A strong energy entered Lin's body and took over it. He had never felt anything like this. As a result, the guy underwent a transformation and received a new specialty, Green Emperor. Now he possessed the powers of fire and water. He will continue to receive the remaining powers gradually. Lin was incredibly happy about this. He already had so many characteristics that it was unlikely that anyone could defeat him. Then he headed towards the exit and noticed that the room began to collapse. The guy left the quest and returned to the capital Mo. He took his phone out of his pocket, but the first thing that horrified him was the date. It turned out that the guy had been in the maze for 2 weeks. He remembered Stupid and urgently went to him. He was always where Lin left him. The guy said that he would feed Stupid right away, and in the meantime handed him a scroll to renew his strength. Meanwhile, Zhang fought hard for the top spot in the rankings. He had already managed to reach the 18th level, and he thought that he had overtaken Z and regained his reputation. But when he opened the table to look at the result, he was furious. Z somehow reached level 20 and still continued to take first place. Everyone was still in shock that Stupid had not been seen for a couple of days, and now he immediately found himself in 5th place. In just a minute, such dramatic changes took place in the rating table. At this moment, Lin and the Fulmar decided to have a snack, and at the same time get acquainted with the characteristics of the Bagua. Very soon, it will be activated and will allow its owner to control the powers of water and fire. Now he had an unlimited number of skills. Even if Lin did not master them well, he could use them with the help of intuition. At this moment, all of Lin's characteristics came into balance. The specialty of a magician and a warrior merged into one. Afterwards, they looked at how much the characteristics of Stupid had improved. Now he possessed the power to transform all things. While they were figuring out their new characteristics, they missed the battle merit meeting. The guy realized that while he was away for so long, the city's residents did not stand still, and significantly increased their levels. The battle merit meeting was held if there were 30% of players in the city who had reached the 10th level. Lin invited Silly to go in search of zombies, saying that with the help of his hammer they could easily deal with them. Silly activated his new skill and instantly became covered in stone armor. And while Lin was doing his own thing on the sidelines, his zombie subordinate dealt with all the opponents. The guy took the scroll of Fireball Mastery. He was determined to learn this skill. At one moment he became one with this element. And then I tried to throw fireballs. Not everything worked out the first time, but in the end he still learned this skill of the Green Emperor specialty. Then Lin thought, since there are many scrolls with different skills in their store, then the same should be true in other cities. The players' battle merit meeting was about to begin in other cities as well. Therefore, Lin decided to get acquainted with the real strength of players from other cities. Meanwhile, in the Jin capital, a meeting was being held at the Li family residence. The head said that being in the top 3 is not enough for him. He sought to win Li's honor and take first place. He added that if the enemy has any sense, he will not quarrel with them. The head gave the order to get first place at any cost, and then dismissed everyone. He detained Shi Jingshan and gave him orders to find out why Rongjiang had not yet appeared in the rankings. He also assigned another task to deal with Zhang Yuanjun, who topped the ranking. That's why the head had an uneasy feeling. He didn't want a mess to start. He thought that he needed to take this opportunity to raise his family to the very top, as well as find Haobo. At this time, in the suburbs of the capital, Mo Lin continued to use his new skill to kill zombies. He calmed down only when he reached level 21, and his strength and characteristics increased again. Afterwards, the guy took Stupid and they went to the city border. As it turned out, she was sealed by a magical barrier, and it was not yet known whether it was possible to get through it. There was only one way out. Wait until the city is open. Then it will be possible to move on. Lin remembered his key for breaking boundaries and decided to use it. But when he made a hole in the barrier, he saw only darkness beyond the wall. He hoped that there would be a road there, and assumed that this was another obstacle. After they crossed into darkness, the barrier closed. There was no way back. In front of them, they saw a white room. Lin headed there. Upon entering, he was surprised why there was nothing there. The system sent a new alert. It said that Lin and Stupid had violated the ban on crossing borders between cities. After a few seconds, they will be automatically returned back. But suddenly Lin asked to move them to Jin City. He knew that it was there that a meeting on the combat merits of the players would soon be held. The program accepted his request. They will immediately be sent to the outskirts of the capital, Jing City. The guy exhaled because everything worked. But soon a new test awaited them. He and Silly moved to the city of Jing, to the epicenter of a gathering of various zombies. And in order to survive, they had to fight. Despite the huge loss of energy, they managed, and Lin moved to the 22nd level. They only had time to rest for a couple of minutes, and again they heard a sound that spoke of the approach of new zombies. Lin ordered Silly to run away. They were not ready to fight again. They quickly climbed into the sewer hatch in order to rest and then continue on their way again. Lin realized that it would not be easy for them in the city. Since they were immediately sent to a pack of zombies, they definitely wanted to scare them. The guy reviewed his just-received rewards. They turned out to be pretty good. There was even a little space ring that he gave to Silly to keep his food cards. The next morning, having rested, they went outside. It was already calm. Suddenly, someone from behind recognized Stupid. He came up and asked if they were going to a competition. Lin considered this meeting a stroke of luck. This guy could be used to find out everything about local players and competitions. In secret, the guy said that this meeting should determine the structure of Jing City. Lin wondered if ratings could give one the right to vote. Have the state, 3 families, and other organizations achieved peace? In the previous life, Jing City was the first to stabilize the situation. While in other cities, players were fighting tooth and nail. He thought that the time had almost come. In this life, the situation in the city is the same as in the last. As gratitude, Lin offered the guy to buy a card with resources for 90 coins. In the store, they cost from 100. The guy was very happy and decided to buy 3 at once. This was seen by random passers-by. Suddenly, Lin was attacked by a whole crowd of people offering to buy cards from him. But since they did not do anything useful for the guy, he could only sell them for 95 coins. Everyone agreed. Lin said he would sell the cards within an hour. The number of cards is not limited. The guy thought that in the city of Mo he did not receive a badge of honor due to a lack of coins. Now in Jing City, he will definitely get it. Because of these actions, Lin attracted unnecessary attention and trouble. The leopard sent 3 people to deal with them. Those 3 people could even handle level 20s and 30s masters. The guy added that even though Stupid is strong, he won't be able to cope this time. He invited the man in the robe to join and earn extra money. Suddenly he got out and killed the guy, saying that he had disappointed him very much. The secret stranger was more interested in who this person was that made Stupid follow him. Night fell. There were practically no people on the street. Lin noticed that they were being followed. Suddenly, one guy caught up with Lin and said that it was very unsafe here, and that he could suggest a good place to rest. But Lin had no intention of running away. He turned to his pursuers and told them to leave quickly. They came out and said that Lin could not do business here, even if he took Stupid as his guard. The guy didn't care. He behaved so self-confidently that many could only envy him. Then the strangers said that they would leave him alone if Lin gave up half of the proceeds and half of the remaining cards. In total, there were 32 people with good characteristics. Lin thought that by killing them he could earn some money, but Lin did not agree to this. Moreover, they wasted too much of his time. Then Stupid activated his characteristics and began to beat these people. Lin ordered not to kill them, but only to cripple them so that they could feel what real pain was. The fool began to swing his hammer so deftly that even the main two became afraid, even though these people were among the top 10 with specialization, and could easily kill zombies. But today, they came across Lin. Lin killed everyone who came within his reach with just one blow. Some were able to escape and survive. Others were much less lucky. He saw the fear on people's faces and wondered if it was worth continuing. People simply fell to their knees and began to beg for mercy. They had never met anyone so strong before. Then the guy said that he was Li Haobo, and he swore that if he ever did not keep his word and killed someone, then his entire family would die immediately. But these people will have to pay for him to let them live. Lin ordered these people to give up everything they had on them, all cards and coins. They turned out their pockets in the hope that the guy would have mercy on them. But Lin acted differently. The guy kept his word and did not kill them with his own hands. He ordered Stupid to do this. Many residents were grateful for this. After all, throughout this entire period, Leopard's people mocked, robbed, and killed their relatives. A secret stranger was watching everything from the side. He suggested that Jing City would soon undergo major changes. This guy took the gun and pointedly fired upward. Lin noticed this and realized that he had been noticed, and not everyone liked what he was doing in this city. Later, Lin went to the safe area of G City. This was the only area in the entire country. To enter, you had to show your ID, but then he and Stupid would have been discovered. Lin didn't want to reveal his identity until he knew what the real strength of the Li family was. He thought that in an area that was built in a hurry, there must be shortcomings. The guy went to look for them. Just an hour later, they found an ordinary door, which was not guarded by anyone. They opened it using a regular master key and went inside. Lin instructed Silly to find a map of the city and warned him to act carefully. A couple of minutes later, the card was already in the guy's hands. He was interested in where exactly the competition would take place. It turned out that everything would take place in the sports complex, so they went there. Everyone considered Zhang Yunzhong the winner in absentia. He was the pride of this city, but there was also a rumor that he was not feeling well now. Now Lin understood why Zhang only took third place in his previous life. Lin approached the crowd and asked where he could place a bet. It turned out that we needed to go to the Red Building, which was located right in front of the sports complex. People clarified that the gambling house was opened by the three main families of this city. There were still 3 hours before the meeting began. Lin decided to take advantage of the situation and make a bet. Everyone was betting on Zhang to win, so everyone was a little surprised when Lin bet that Zhang would only take third place. Lin understood that this was a chance to get a tidy sum and bet 20,000 gold coins on it. If his bet wins, he will receive a winnings of 60,000 coins. Everyone started laughing at Lin. They were sure that the guy would lose. Lin took control of Silly's mind and made a similar bet on his behalf. Lin was tired of catching surprised glances, so he hurried everyone to accept his bet, especially since the competition was about to begin. After that, they went to the place of the meeting on military merits. Lin also met the requirements for participants, and he could take part in the competition. The guy listened to the conditions of the competition, which seemed quite strange to him. He took his time on the competition field, but had to get there within 5 minutes, or he would be disqualified. The competition has begun. Lin needed to choose the position of attacker or defender. He looked towards the arena. Only Zhang managed to reach it first. Then he saw Shi Jingshan. In the past, he was one of the 3 war gods of the Li family. Lin also saw that a group of special gods of the Li family had already arrived at the arena. Li 76 and 4 had clearly better equipment than his opponent Shan Bao. The guy realized that Shan Bao would lose in this fight, only because he plays by the rules, unlike his opponent. And so it happened. Li killed him and threw him off the platform, which the other participants really didn't like. Killings were not welcome here. All the people turned against Li and ordered him to get out of the competition. General Shui, who was observing everything, was worried about the Li family's actions. They always spoke and talked about the importance of the integrity of the population, and suddenly they allow themselves to kill people so easily. He said that today, after the meeting, it would be necessary to immediately take action against 3 people. But Li's boyfriend was fidgeting on the platform and said that the murder was an accident. Then a new opponent, Chen Shuo, came onto his platform. He was the elder of Shan Bo's group. Suddenly, Shai came out to him, asked him to calm down, and said that he would become his opponent. Lin watched everything and thought that this man would die at his hands. You just need to wait. A battle began between the opponents. Shi wielded his hammer deftly. Stupid had already had his eye on him. He gave Chen Shuo a good beating. If he had not surrendered, he would definitely have died. Afterwards, Shi, feeling a taste of his own greatness, smugly began to call new players to fight. Lin decided to take advantage of the moment and went out to him on the platform. People whispered that this guy was crazy and chose an opponent beyond his strength. Afterwards, some recognized him as that guy, who bet 20,000 coins that Zhang would take third place. Shai decided to quickly deal with the guy in the mask, but everything happened even faster. Lin cut his opponent into several pieces in just a few seconds. The entire arena froze at what they saw. They couldn't even imagine how strong this masked man was. Someone from the crowd timidly shouted that this guy was Yatsu. They decided to check the information, and Lin deliberately took off his mask. Then he introduced himself, saying that Yaji means vengeful. He decided to say it directly in person. Otherwise, sooner or later, people would still have guessed who he was. And it turned out much more effective. Yazu loudly announced to the entire arena that the Li family should prepare for revenge. The commander-in-chief looked at the guy with the thought that it looked like he had a comrade in arms in the fight against 3 families. Everyone in the Li residence was going crazy with rage. They didn't expect this at all. Li Lixuan could not explain why everything got out of control and led to such consequences. The head was unhappy that Li Xuan failed to win the guy over to their side. And now it turns out that they have taken out Yazi to become their worst enemy. But Li Xuan tried to justify himself and said that now their main enemy is the government. And you shouldn't pay attention to Tsu. He added that he had already organized a group of people who would create a stir after the first stage of the competition. Meanwhile, Lin caught admiring glances in the arena. He appropriated a hammer, which perfectly suited Stupid's characteristics. He took a chair and sat on the platform, waiting for the enemy, but no one dared to go up to him. He decided to watch the other participants. It was obvious that the Li family had pitted its players against the weaker ones. Lear also brutally dealt with his opponent during the fight, which again led the audience into outrage. Suddenly, Stupid walked up to Li Er on the platform, which made him laugh. As it turned out, Silly's mind was controlled by Lin. But this still did not help him cope with the enemy. But then the zombie revealed his true power and began to attack the enemy. He exhausted and crippled him so much that he had to accept his defeat. But Stupid still approached him and ended the confrontation by killing his opponent. The mind control is over. Everyone looked at Stupid with admiration and wanted to be in his place next to Yatsu. Lin couldn't be happier. The Li family lost 2 of their war gods today. There was 1 more left, but he was not in the city. The guy became very bored at the competition after he completed his little plan. The first stage of the competition was over. The players could go to gain energy. Tomorrow, an equally busy day awaited them. Silly was most interested in where his new hammer was, which he wanted so much. All players were required to proceed to the room to save information. And when Lin visited this room, he received a new task from the system to become the first in the city of Jing. The task was of low difficulty, and the reward was small, but Lin still accepted it. When he left the room, he saw First General Zhang. Lin said that there was no need to introduce himself. He already knew too much about him. And if he needs something, then he should speak directly. It turned out that he came to Lin with 2 proposals. First, their city would be very happy if the guy agreed to defend this city. Lin interrupted Zhang and said that he doesn't want to waste time on empty talk. Zhang then added that Chief Shui had seen him during the battle and would like to meet him in person. In a whisper, he clarified that they want to cooperate in the fight against 3 families. They went to a place where no one could interfere with their conversation or overhear. Lin was interested in this proposal and what exactly it would consist of. Zhang said that after the start of Judgment Day, many chapters turned into zombies. Therefore, it became more difficult for the 3 families to resist. Now the government is doing a lot for the safety of citizens, but families are only taking advantage of this unstable situation. Therefore, the government wanted Yazi to use his reputation to attract players to their side. Then it would be much easier to confront these families, including the Lis. Lin said that he would agree only if they decided to deal with the Li family much faster than indicated in their plan. He was also interested in what rewards he could receive if the government's losses were reduced to a minimum. He added that he only gives 1 chance to those he trusts, and ended the conversation. When they went outside, they saw people running away somewhere. It turned out that the southeastern corner of the wall in the safe zone had collapsed. People were urgently needed for defense. A crowd of zombies was approaching. Everyone who could went to the defense. This was a great opportunity to earn some coins. Afterwards, it became clear that most likely it was the work of the Li family. Lin said that now it is necessary to gather people and check on the Li family. Surely a surprise will await them. Zhang went in search of Li, asking Lin not to get involved for now. He agreed, and decided that now was the opportunity to earn some coins. The next day, everyone was actively discussing the competition, and in particular Yazi. It was expected that today's competition would be even more interesting. Everyone admired him, but at the same time they were afraid to look. No one could predict his actions. Before the competition, Lin decided to go to a store in Jing City. He intended to purchase important items there. Now they were followed everywhere by attention and a lot of fans. Even Stupid liked it. When Lin entered the store, he noticed that everything here was much more expensive than in Mo City. He updated his equipment with new ones, and decided to give the old one to his subordinate Stupid. When they returned home, it was already about 10 o'clock at night. Lin and Stupid were already heading home, but they were stopped by a city patrol. It turned out that there was a curfew in this city, so going out at night was prohibited. But as soon as Lin turned around, they learned that it was Yazi, and quickly left, pretending that they had not seen anyone. Meanwhile, dissatisfied cries were heard from the An family estate. The guy was not happy that the Li family set him up. She prepared herself and left it to the government. Suddenly his secretary interrupted him. Ono entered the room with the news that Yazi had arrived at the estate. The gentleman was frightened and said that this could not be because he had a score to settle with the Li family, not with him. Yazi came with a message saying that the An family will soon be gone. The gentleman said to let the guy in. He was wondering what offer he came with. When Lin entered the room, he noticed that An was surrounded by guards. It was obvious that he was afraid of someone, and confidently asked why Yazi came to his house, because as far as he remembers, there were no quarrels between them. Lin replied that he was more interested in the An family's quarrel with the Li family. The guy said that you shouldn't interfere in the relationship between these families, and it's better to leave. But Lin said that he came here for another reason. He asked whether Pan Gaochi was really in charge of the food in this house. An was scared. He thought that there had never been any problems with this man. You can trust him when it comes to nutrition. But Lin hinted that this person was specially sent by the Li family, and mockingly said that most likely Yazi does not understand how everything works in their families. But Lin made it clear that he knows about the secret technique they use to raise slaves. Since childhood, they have been giving special pills, thereby brainwashing people. And tensed, only the three main families should know about this method. Suddenly, Lin ordered the guy to press on his stomach and then hit him in the heart area. The guy didn't know how it worked, but he obeyed and completed the order. His nose began to bleed. It turned out he used Li's secret technique on the guy. It only worked on those who were brainwashed. In a past life, the head of the An family became the god of magic of the entire earth. His body was reborn, and only then was it able to get rid of the threat of the Li family's secret technology. But it was already too late. Up to this point, the Li family had already taken possession of everything that the An family had. In addition, his family and children became hostages, so he continued to work for the Li family. In this life, Lin could not allow this to happen again. This magician could be useful to him, and was interested in how long he could live. But only the Li family knew this, since they had an antidote. Then Lin decided to make a lucrative offer, because it was obvious that Li was controlled not only by his cooks. He held out his hand with a list containing everyone who was under Li's control, but he set a price of 200,000 gold coins for this information. But An was indignant at this price. He could give no more than 80,000. It was known that Lin came to visit another family with a similar proposal. The next day, a satisfied Lin was studying a new skill, Oath of Flames. He combined this technique with his sword. The result was a surprisingly powerful weapon. Afterwards, Lin took Stupid, and they went to the second stage of the competition. When Yatsu was preparing to read the characteristics from the initial stage of the competition, the general approached him. He said that he talked to management and conveyed all the guys' demands. They wanted to meet after the competition and discuss the details in person. Afterwards, Yatsu could have to choose his opponent. He chose number 13 and went to the arena. But Lin was confused, because when he entered the arena, he saw his opponent on his knees. He surrendered without a fight. Lin had never won so easily before. Thus he received 2 points. Lin was immersed in anticipation. While everyone else fought, he simply watched. While he had time, he decided to research information about Zhang. In his previous life, if the Li family had not used some secret medicine, Zhang would definitely not have been in third place. Now Zhang was fighting with Stupid. This fight looked very worthy. Zhang knew that he could not lose to Yazi's assistant, otherwise his reputation would be destroyed. Lin used mind control and ordered Silly to defeat Zhang. Otherwise, he would not receive fried chicken for 3 days. Silly loved fried chicken so much that he was ready to do anything. But defeating Zhang was not so easy. He activated the power of the one god. Lin was delighted with such a spectacle. He remembered how in his previous life, Zhang was able to kill a level 80 zombie with this ability. It was a fight of the strongest. The entire arena watched with open mouths. In the end, Stupid turned out to be the winner. Although as opponents, they were almost equal. Now Yazi had to fight his subordinate Silly, but such a battle by General Zhang earned respect even from Lin. After the fight, Stupid and John went to the restroom. But the general was too proud, so he refused help and asked him to examine Stupid first. Lin said that the Fulmer does not need help. He has special skills due to his specialization. He just needs to be fed. But in fact, laziness did this so that no one would know who the Fulmer really is. The program issued an alert. The battle skills meeting was officially completed. The first place in the ranking went to Yatsu. The second place was taken by the Fulmer. Third in the ranking is Jian Yuanjun. Everyone assumed that Tsu would win, but General Zhang was even a little sorry. A guy in a cap was watching all this. He heard Zai that he became the winner and received a gold-level reward. This greatly angered him, because he believed that he should be the winner in this fight. With his behavior, he attracted the attention of others. But behind his clothes, no one realized that he was a representative of the Li family. Lin went to refresh himself, and at the same time waited for the gold reward to be loaded. The guy was wondering what he would get. This seemed like a very generous reward. These were shimmering boots that had a spatial skill. Thus, Lin completed the task and received a reward from the system, and received one simple trainer. It was a piece of silver-level equipment, namely, demonic gloves. Lin thought that the system did not like magicians since it was trying in every possible way to protect the guy from them. Overall, Lin was pleased with his rewards. In any case, he became even more powerful. Then he decided to look at the rewards of his ward Stupid. It turned out that for second place, he received silver armor and soft gloves. Lin was a little upset by this. Silly also hoped for better equipment. As a consolation, the guy decided to give the zombie a larger chicken leg. But now they had to go collect their reward. Lin earned 120,000 coins from his bet. For this money, the guy did not hope to purchase the badge of honor of the city of Jin. Many people would not like this, but when they went outside, a messenger from General Zhang was already waiting for them. He hastened to convey that Yazi had been waiting for a long time at a meeting to discuss tactics in relation to the Li family. It turned out that the Lis took advantage of the fact that everyone was watching the competition and sent several hundred suicide bombers holding pieces of raw meat to them. In this way, they were able to attract several thousand zombies to the safe zone. At this moment, all the strong players and fighters from their army were in the arena. So the safe area was left without protection. Lin understood that the only way to protect a safe area was by using a human shield. But it will cost the lives of at least 1,000 people. But then the guy thought that although the Lis were capable of such a thing, they would not have time to attract thousands of zombies in such a short period of time. He decided to go to an emergency meeting of the city's defense forces. The guy suggested that someone else could be behind the Li family. Most likely he missed something important. Meanwhile, the family's behavior and actions were actively discussed at the meeting. Today's event was considered a declaration of war, but others noticed that now we need to think first of all about safety, and then we will provide assistance to the Li family. And after the construction of the safe zone is completed, everyone needs to tell everyone the attire of their family in order to destroy their reputation. Moreover, they were not ready for war now. If they decide to do this, they will suffer great losses. The commander-in-chief was furious. He said that the family would not sit quietly and watch as they built a safe zone. Most likely they will make a second attempt, and the city will pay with hundreds of lives of residents and soldiers. General Zhang did not agree with this, but he did not know what their financial situation was. Suddenly their conversation was interrupted by Li. He went inside and said that he supported the general. Not everyone understood who it was at first, and asked why strangers were allowed into the hall and what the security was doing. Very soon they noticed that it was Yazi, the winner of the martial skills meeting. He has a good reputation. I was still indignant at why people from the street were allowed into such an important meeting. He ordered the guy to be taken away from here. Then General Zhang said that it was he who invited Yazi here, and that he vouches for him. Lin said that although many people don't know him, he knows everything about them. For example, Himu's wife died early, and her daughter turned into a zombie. But despite this, he still stands in defense of the safe zone. Then he decided to take the minister by surprise, so he asked him if he knew who Lin Zi was. Everyone in the room was simply in shock. There was tension in the air. Lin continued by saying that Himu was very happy when he found out that he also had a son. Moreover, when he was offered to work for the family in order to provide a better life for his son, he agreed without hesitation. Suddenly, everyone heard an emergency alert, which said that in 5 hours the zombies would reach the city. After that, Himu admitted that for a long time he had been doing business with the government. He was no longer afraid of anything because his son was safe with his family, or… Lin wondered if the family had decided to act earlier and therefore sent the zombies here. The guy said that he provided information about Haimu for free, so he wants this person as a reward. The general agreed, saying that he hoped the man's death would be painful. After that, Lin turned to everyone else and said that if they had questions, he would be happy to answer them. Since there were no more questions, the guy decided to go. He still had things to do. On the street, everyone saw how Yazi tied up the minister. Everyone understood that he was most likely connected with the Li family. They also admired him because he was able to prevail even over the minister. But Himu didn't have an ounce of regret. He did not consider himself guilty, and continued to say that they would all end soon anyway. Since there were a lot of people around, the guy decided to use a soundproof dome. This way, no one would be able to hear their conversation and find out what Z is interested in. Himu said that the reserve area is sealed. Nobody can escape. Everyone will die. Lin hit him in the face, and he started asking questions. He was interested in where the head of Li Lixuan was, but the minister did not want to say anything. He understood that his son's life depended on it. Lin thought that he liked such brave guys, and imagined his favorite dagger in his throat, and asked the question again. But that didn't work either. Lin realized that the Li family had promised him something important. Himu continued to say that he did not know where the head was and prayed for the guy to kill him. Lin continued to strike with a blunt knife. He hoped that the minister would confess. Then the guy decided to ask another question, namely, what Li Lixuan ordered him to do. But the minister was of no use. He did not want to tell anything. Then Lin realized that there was no point in mocking him anymore. He killed him by cutting him into small pieces. Lin then went to the exchange office to pick up his gold coins. His winnings will be more than 120,000. The guy spent this money to buy himself an honorary badge of the city and chicken legs for stupid. Lin was incredibly proud of himself. Only a player who made a huge contribution to the development of the city had the right to possess this badge. The guy looked at him and realized that he was not epic, but rather diamond level. It gave its owner the opportunity to summon a mythical animal for a couple of minutes. After this, Lin decided that it was time to update Silly's equipment as well. Everyone in town was talking about Yatsu's new golden outfit. It seemed that there would be no one left in the equipment ranking except Yazi. Meanwhile, the commander-in-chief again gathered everyone for a meeting. He was informed that at a distance of 1,000 meters on all sides of the safe zone, there was a protective barrier and doomsday games. They could see the situation behind the dome, but there was no way to break through it. Moreover, no traces of a zombie invasion were found, but the general noticed that the advantage was not on their side. Their fighting strength could only last for 2 days. They decided to put protection on 2 fields of probable directions from which a zombie attack could occur. Zhang said that it was necessary to protect the western side, since it was not yet completed, and the eastern side, since the Li family made a hole there. Meanwhile, Lin decided to send a message to the head of the Li family through the public address system. In this message, he called him a cowardly rat and a mistake of nature. Thus, he wanted to provoke him and hurt his pride, and it worked. The head of the Li family was simply furious when he saw this message. He promised himself that he would break this guy's spine, no matter what the cost. He lusts for his death. At that moment, an assistant entered his office and said that many believed that the zombie invasion occurred on their initiative. They hated the Li family for this, and wanted to take revenge in any way. Therefore, many people at the gathering places decided to leave. Many staged an uprising. They also suffered great losses due to the message in which Yazi ridiculed the Li family. The head realized that they had lost their reputation. This made him feel bad and he fainted. Meanwhile, Zhang went to the southeastern corner of the city to supervise the army's preparations. According to him, they had approximately 50,000 combat-ready people. There were still 100,000 people in the rear, but their fighting abilities were poor and could not be taken into account. General Zhang knew that this was not enough, but they had no other choice. Zhang looked ahead. He understood that in 5 hours a very difficult and bloody battle would begin. Suddenly, Lin received an alert from the system. Since he was in the safe zone at the time of the zombie invasion, he was given the task of fighting and fighting with all his might. Lin also saw that in this life, the powers of zombies and the powers of people are too different, even considering the strength of the guy. He didn't expect that the zombie's strength would be so strong this time, so he realized that it would be difficult to fight. He immediately took stupid. Now there was no time to eat. They had an important job. When the guy went outside, he heard a warning that the zombie invasion would begin very soon. He looked over the wall and saw thousands of zombies heading towards him. It was clear that they were under control. The general gave the command to get ready. Very soon he will begin with himself, in which few will survive. Lin decided that he had to fight and began to kill zombies, using all his best abilities and skills. The soldiers of the first line of the southeast side had so far repelled the zombie pressure. But the northern region was in a critical situation. What the general feared most of all happened. Zombies attacked from all sides. It was also known that Yazi appeared on the wall on the north side. But Stupid was nowhere to be seen. The general assumed that this guy decided to fight the zombie invasion alone. The soldiers saw Yazi come out through the gate and head straight towards the zombies. They were worried because it was very dangerous, but they couldn't imagine how strong this guy was. At one time, he could kill 50 opponents. The soldiers did not understand what they were waiting for, because Yazi had already fought to the fullest. They also decided to benefit the city and went to kill zombies. Well, when they saw how this guy dealt with zombies, they were even more surprised. His methods turned out to be very extraordinary. Between killing zombies, he even had time to relax and enjoy his favorite tea. Even special zombies could not inflict a single scratch on the guy. In just a couple of minutes of fighting, Yazi was able to raise his level to 24, but suddenly some special zombie appeared on the territory. He focused all his attention on this guy. Then he sent a whole bunch of ordinary zombies towards Z, but he was able to deal with them with ease. The zombies continued to make their way at an unusual speed. If this continues, they will soon break through the defense line and rush into the city. The number of zombies in the north will soon reach its limit. Lin knew that something needed to be solved, and quickly. Then he decided that it was time to use the protection of the spirit of the beast. Yazu rose up using the power of freezing and activated this sign. Lin released a real beast. He had the nature of a man, and it was surprising. The guy admired this. He needed to study this ability more, but there was no time for that yet. Under Lin's control, this magical beast began to kill all the zombies that were nearby with its electric current. The faces of these zombies seemed quite funny under the influence of the current. As a result, the guy killed a lot of zombies and moved to the 25th level, and immediately then to the 26th. People came up with admiration to see what Lin was doing. They were fascinated by this amazing power of the Green Emperor, and at the same time caused nostalgia. They were shocked that the legacy of two great people passed on to one person. During the events, Lin received the reward of purple golden snow and thunder killin' scales, as well as the earthquake source. The source of the earthquake had the power of extreme lightning and thunder. One of the 8 trigram pendants allowed the player to master these elements. The purple gold snow and thunder killin' scale is a special epic level tool. Lin thought it would be cool to get a couple more of these Qilin scales. The guy was in a good mood. He even made fun of the remaining zombies, realizing that soon they too would come to an end. Lin continued to gain points. He increased his level again and ended up in 27th. He noticed that for some reason the automatic collection in the trainer was turned off. But unfortunately, under the power of this beast, the equipment and weapons that appeared were destroyed, so they could not be collected. It turned out that the destructive power of this creature is much greater than the guy expected. He was interested in whether he could keep the gold level cards. He planned to find an opportunity and try to do it. The guy noticed the thing that Qilin had gotten and thought that it must be of very good quality. But it was so small that the guy didn't know where to put it. He decided to activate it, and the scale was automatically transferred to his chest in the form of an emblem. His speed, strength, energy, and body quality increased enormously. Afterwards, Lin thought that since the threat in the north had been eliminated, it was time to check other areas. The soldiers looked after him with admiration and could not believe that a couple of minutes ago, they had fought with him side by side. Despite the fact that a considerable number of soldiers died, they managed to protect the city gates. Meanwhile, rumors of Yazi's exploits reached other areas. People were sent there to clean up. This information also had to be immediately conveyed to the general. This would invigorate the spirit of the soldiers. Everyone in town admired this guy. Moreover, he managed to overtake the general by as many as 8 levels so quickly, and in the ranking by the number of points for merit. He generally exceeded his rivals several times. On the other side of the city, the situation was not so positive. They were attacked by flying zombies. The commander gave the order to the mage players to take on these creatures. It was obvious that they were in dire need of help. The enemy tried to attack the crystal, but so far it has not been possible to contact the general. The boss took full responsibility upon himself. They had to cope at any cost.